it ain't since so long. All the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night. Said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. Oh, you seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over. It's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. Roller coaster. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
Rookies are beginning to report to NFL training camps. Chargers rookies reported over the weekend. They're going to be a part of the Hall of Fame game along with Detroit. But one rookie in particular did not report. That is second-round wide receiver Trey Harris. And Harris is one of the 30 second-round picks from this year to have not signed yet their rookie deals. And this does appear to stem from the second-round rookies wanting fully guaranteed contracts. Again, the Lions are the other team in the Hall of Fame game. Their rookies will report on Wednesday, while the Bills, along with a number of other teams, will have their rookies report tomorrow. Training camp for the Bills will officially get underway next week, and Bills' second-round pick, TJ Sanders, is also among the second-round rookies who are not signed just yet. The Sabres have announced their Prospect Challenge schedule. It is in September 12th against New Jersey, 13th against Columbus, and then 15th against Pittsburgh. Tonight, the MLB All-Star Weekend gets underway, and tonight is the Home Run Derby. The All-Star Game will be tomorrow night down in Atlanta. The Derby, though, is going to start just after 8 o'clock. And a reminder for tomorrow, Bills and Sabres Foundations will be hosting the 5th annual Give 716 Day, raising as much money for local charities as possible, beginning at 7:16 p.m. tomorrow evening, and then running until 11:59 p.m. Wednesday, July 16th. Over 550 charities are participating. All fans are encouraged to make a donation of any amount to their favorite charity or charities. They can go to 716.org between 7:16 p.m. Tuesday, July 15th, and midnight on Wednesday, July 16th. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think that's a very good attitude.
It's Mike Schopp.
You don't think? You don't think? I don't think you should be butting in when I'm talking to my team. You're my assistant, okay? You're supposed to back me up and go get me juice boxes when I tell you. Now go get me a juice box. You know who you're talking to.
It's the Bulldog.
I'm talking to the juice box guy. You're crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm just thirsty. Why don't you go to hell? No, you go to hell. While you're there, why don't you grab me a juice box? I'm no juice box boy, I'll tell you that. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you
It's
are.
my
I'm
show
not. Yes, you
and the
are.
Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Just had a thought that made me feel ancient. Do you remember ever hearing about how it was always like a trivia question, the 2 days of the year on the sports calendar where there were no sports were the days around the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, which would be tonight and Wednesday. I don't think they play on Thursday either anymore, but Home Run Derby tonight is arguably more popular than the All-Star Game. I think it probably is. The All-Star Game, what are the talking points? This year, there's this pitcher, Mizorowski, with the Brewers, who has barely pitched at all, but he's a hot item, he's young, and there's some debate about whether he should be in the All-Star Game because he hasn't exactly, had a career yet. But it's about appeal, selling tickets. I mean, that's not the exact thing here, but just, making it as interesting as possible. So a guy that's sort of a good but not famous pitcher somewhere else is going to get squeezed so that this guy can pitch. I don't really care. That's fine. I understand what it is. So the All-Star Game, we had a tie once, but I am not somebody who remembers anything that's happened in a Major League Baseball All-Star Game in probably literally decades. So what do I do with that? That's by the old question, that's the sporting event, is tomorrow night. Tonight, Home Run Derby. I remember a lot of things. I don't even really like it. But, I don't hate it either. It's not something I build my schedule around. But a lot of kind of interesting things have happened. And so you can't say that tonight doesn't have sports, but tomorrow does. And you've got this NBA Summer League that seems really great. The NBA has made it work so that apart from their All-Star Game, which I think is still kind of cool, but they were talking about doing an international tournament like hockey did with 4 nations. The Summer League thing seems really interesting, and people go to it. And we had the stat last week about how the cheapest ticket for the NBA Finals, a little bit of a cherry-picked thing because it was Oklahoma City and Indiana, which the average sports fan might not even know have teams. Oklahoma City, Indiana, the cheapest ticket to the first game of the finals was going for less than, also cherry-picked, cheapest, versus tickets for Cooper Flagg and Bronny James in a game in the Summer League. I was at a hotel over the weekend, just walking by, and the TVs are on. I'm always a little bit interested in what is chosen. Sometimes it's going to be completely random. Sometimes people have put thought into it, like what's on in the hotel bar, and it was this game. What was it? The game? It was the Lakers against somebody, and people were watching it and talking about it. And so, good for the NBA to be able to accomplish that. LeBron was there. I saw it today. This kind of also was amazing to me that he's already played for the Lakers for 7 years, and that no, it should have been 2. But that's what happens. That's my excuses. That's what happens when you get older. I want to get to James Cook. As the chat will readily point out, we don't talk about him enough. So I do want to get to James Cook. Bulldog is not here today. Before I do, though, I just want to tell you this little story to get sort of loose here for the week. So I mentioned I was at a hotel. I was in Maryland with my son. He had lacrosse Saturday, Sunday in Maryland. And moms and dads maybe know this one. His team has had a good season. So previous tournaments we've been to, they actually won. So lacrosse, baseball, maybe this is a flaw of mine, but as it gets late and you're thinking about how many hours of a drive it is to get home and everything you need to do at home, and then the next day where you go to work, these tournaments have been friendly for this. I mean, if they're going to play for a championship, you can't complain about, all right, well, we're stuck here or something like that. Like that's why they're there. This one was a tournament where they ended up in the losers bracket, and they got done. They lost their semifinal game yesterday at like 10:20. 7-hour drive, give or take. 10:20 in the morning, they were out. But we knew that they would have one more game. They would have to wait, though, for 2 other games to happen first. And then they would play a game. They're out of it. But then they would play a game after noon. And the parents are like, you can't console them. And I'm not helping either. I'm right with them. Like, we're going to be here for another it's 90 plus degrees and there's no place to hide. We're going to be here for another 3 hours for a game that means nothing. And it turned out that his team, it's a Buffalo team, his team was going to play another Buffalo team in that game. And so the parents are all just like, one by one, they're coming over, but it's jokingly how we really shouldn't have to do this. We should figure out a place either halfway home itself, some other date. There's really no reason for all of us to stand here in this heat for a second straight day in the losers bracket to play a game from like our neighbors. Like really, we could go, right? We could really go. So we're all just sort of trying to make the best. The parents, my idea was the parents should just leave. Just want to say it was not a serious idea. Like the kids want to play, but the parents are thinking about like the night and the next day. And like we should really get out of here. That was not a serious idea. But, we're just kind of randomly throwing out possible locations for this game, Buffalo versus Buffalo, and we're here, near Baltimore. And so I went to go get a glass of water or something, come back, and I saw the coaches were talking, and I'm like, really what we should do is leave and play these people at home or something, like, or whether we play them at all. The parents are talking about just taking off, and not that it's that funny, but the three of them, nobody's laughing. And I said, well, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I didn't really mean this as a serious idea. And the one guy was like, we are going to do that, actually. So they were thinking the same way, and I was like excited. Like, all right, we're out of here. So I ended up saving a couple hours that way. And despite the fact that all dads and moms whose kids, like Bulldog, he's not here today, whose kids have grown up and they're no longer taking these kinds of road trips anymore, tell me, as they would tell you, oh, you got to savor it. I'm trying to savor it, but I also was really hot and was not excited about a losers bracket game in the Maryland heat with no shade or anything at 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours after the tournament was really decided, for our purposes anyway. So here I am. Thanks for listening. I would like your opinion on this. So we have, we have talked about James Cook a lot. Training camp is next week. Nothing has changed, right? There's been at all, for months. There's been no new contract. There was no mini camp holdout. There have been a couple of tweets. There have been things said. But we don't even have a Jawan Jennings with Cook. Jawan Jennings, wide receiver for the 49ers, who had a good or even very good season last year on what turned out to be a bad 49ers team, or a bad season anyway. Brandon Ayuk went out with a knee injury for the year. McCaffrey was hurt. Like, they were going nowhere. And Jennings, who's a veteran, like he wasn't brand new or anything. He'd been there. Jennings emerged, and he's been interesting in fantasy. Like, he goes, just top of your head, who would you rather have in fantasy football for this year only, Jawan Jennings or Rome Odunze? Because they go, like, literally side by side in rankings and in these drafts. Like, Jennings, it tends to be the kind of guy I will want to avoid because he's older, but who knows with Odunze, it wasn't much of a rookie year. Anyway, the point is that Jennings rose to a point where he might be good. He might be interesting this year for the 49ers. And today, Adam Schefter reported that he wants a trade or a new deal. So we're right where we were with Ayuk, with Jennings now, pretty much, going back to last summer. And, what's different between Jennings and Cook? Different position, of course, and team. But here's a guy that is trying to cash in on a bump of a season where he was needed more and he produced, and that's what Cook did. I mean, it wasn't like Cook wasn't needed before, but the year before we had Latavius Murray and Damian Harris to kick around, and they were gone, and there was no question at all last year that Cook was the Bills' guy. So here we are. Like, we've talked about it a lot, and training camp is next week, and what's going to happen? When minicamp happened and he showed up, we discussed how, well, this doesn't mean that anything's really off the table for training camp. He could still hold out. He could show up and not practice. Bulldog has said, and finally he's not here, so I can rail on this. Of course, I very well could be wrong, as often happens. But his prediction has been consistently on Cook that he'll just walk through the door and play the season if he doesn't get a new contract. That the Bills won't feel like they have to give him one, that they shouldn't give him one, and so they'll just dare him to not show up and lose the accrued year, right? I mean, what does he gain by that? He makes no money, fines, whatever, and he still won't get to free agency if he doesn't show up. So the Bills will call his bluff. If he's even bluffing, the Bills will call his bluff, and he'll walk in and, no harm, no foul. And I just have not believed that the Bills would let it come to that. Because I think while they might also think Cook will capitulate, they wouldn't want to test it. Like, they wouldn't want to have to find out necessarily, so that there would be cap always going up, 18 total touchdowns, regular season only. They would come to some understanding, some agreement where, okay, we'll do better for you, and you can come in, and then nobody will lose any sleep. I was thinking this morning about what I would do if I were Cook. What would you do here if you were James Cook? Would you just be like, well, nice idea, $15 million, fun while it lasted, I like my team, chance to win. This is true actually, Cook is slated to make more money this year already than he's made his whole career combined. Like, he'll be at $5.5 million, and he's something like $4.5 million so far. So that's pretty good, right? If you've been on your job for 3 years and your contract, if you had a contract or whatever it was, you were going to make more this year than the 3 years combined before. Like, that would seem pretty good. So maybe that's what happens. Maybe he's just like, well, it was fun. I was just joking. Really, $15 million. I was just joking, and I'm ready to play and go Bills. What if he wasn't joking? What if he really did just come to minicamp because it would have cost him $40,000 a day to not for 2 or 3 days? The third day is Cone King. The first 2 days are, you're in shorts and whatever. Like, imagine paying money, being fined for not going to that. It's not like he would have broken a sweat. So, okay, I'll come to this. That'll be fine. And, he doesn't show up next week, or he plays hardball with them, which I kind of hope he does. I think that is what happens around the league, and I think that would be interesting. I don't hope for it because it would be difficult for the Bills. I just feel like, you said what you said, and now you're just going to, give in? I don't know. I'm not trying to predict it, because I really couldn't. I mean, I can't predict what is going to happen here. What's the likeliest outcome? I've kind of thought the whole time the likeliest outcome was there would be a new deal, Hasn't happened yet, and it's next week, though. And a lot of times players say, once I get on the field, I'm not talking about it anymore. I think with Cook also that he could have a huge season, I'll say again. I mean, last year, it wasn't like his yards per carry were better or his touches. Everything wasn't really better except touchdowns, and that was crazy better. He went from 2 rushing touchdowns to 16. I mean, that's nuts. But otherwise, like efficiency stuff, he was the same, which is, there's a lesson in that, how fluky touchdowns can be. I mean, that's what often happens in the league. But, he's got his touchdowns and he's got his moment here. And is he going to take advantage of it? What would you do? Isn't that tough? I mean, the way I am, I probably shouldn't admit this. Not that anybody in my realm wouldn't know it. But I've always had a hard time rebuffing offers, like work is like, we'll give you this. And I'll be like, okay. I'm just not as confident in myself as probably people would advise me to be. So I've been very easy, I would say anyway. Somebody could barge through the door. They have the keys and tell everybody different. There is an open seat here today if they wanted to do that. But I think I've been very easy to work with. And so that's me. I would have a tough time, especially when the spotlight is on you and your team needs you. That's true in any workplace. Your team needs everybody. But that would have been staying away if I were Cook would have been really hard for me. But we're also talking about millions, and that's interesting too to think about. I'm in the middle of these, I finished one, but I've mentioned how I've been listening to 2 famous baseball books. One being Ball 4 by Jim Bouton from the late 60s or early 70s. One is The Bronx Zoo, Sparky Lyle. And they're very similar. Both are these pitchers from days when ball players made modest income, talking about wanting to get, literally, Bouton is talking about trying to get $2,000 more out of his owner and why he thinks it's worth it. The point is only that it's not a lot of money. So the principle is the principle, but the difference between $30,000 a year in those days and where Cook is at, trying to turn $5.4 million into 15 even. I mean, that's massive. You can look at that different ways as $15 million a year set for life, etc. But also isn't maybe it already enough to be set for life? So you could look at it that way. Anyway, not to make it too complicated, this is really Cook's opportunity to score. And how willing is he to do that? How, dug in is Cook? We really don't know yet. It's interesting that we're mid-July and camp is next week, and we don't have that answer yet. He went to minicamp, but that didn't end it. If he had held out, that wouldn't have ended it either. We really don't know. What kind of person are you? Would you be the kind of person, this might matter to you, this matters to fans, how the Bills are great and Cook is important enough for anybody to think dude, you got to get in here. This, we're not messing around. We're not the Carolina Panthers. I mean, you got to get in here. And fans also, this is something that also could matter to Cook. Fans, you lose fans when you hold out. Not everyone. It might make sense, but the fans turn on you, at least for a time. If you have a contract and you don't, quote, honor it, I don't know if I needed quotes there. If you don't honor it by coming to work, you lose a lot of people. And does that have to matter to him? Does that even have to be so bad? If he presses the Bills, if he calls their bluff, and a month goes by, and then he signs for a good contract, it'll be considered a win for him. And then, I don't know, do the fans boo him? I mean, what What do the fans care about the Bills' money? You know? I mean, you could think like whatever the dollar amount is too much for a running back, that kind of thing, but it's not our money. It's theirs. So all really the fans care about is the guy being on the field. What would you do if you were James Cook? 803-0550 is the number. Here's Billy on WGR. Hi, Billy.
Hey, how you doing there, Mike?
Good,
yeah, listen,
thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like, you know, this just turns me off when guys do this. And the NBA is more like it. You know, these star players in the NBA just wanting to go from team to team to team because it didn't work out where they are. I mean, I just don't like this. I think it's just a sour taste in everybody's mouth. And what you said, Mike, about, you know, and I'm like you. I'm the worst negotiator there is. If somebody puts something in front of me and it looks half decent, of course, I'm just going to take it. Could I have made more? Probably. But the thing is, I think what happens is a lot of these guys have agents that are telling them, you know, me and you, we don't have agents, or at least I never had. And these guys have agents. You can make more. Just sit out. Just do that. Half the time, the agents is the problem in my books. But if I'm that young man, just go in there and play. Put up big numbers, and hopefully you get rewarded with a good contract. But like I say, back in the day when guys did this, it didn't even go well in the clubhouse. So I mean, just show up, do your stuff, and behind the scenes, maybe you can work something out and get a little bit more, and I hope for them that way. But
okay.
I just don't like it. I just don't like the sitting out part. I don't like it at all.
Okay, thanks. I think you're a lot of people. I'm not really one of them. I like I said, and you referenced it, in real life, I think I've been sort of a softie when it comes to like my stuff. But I don't know. I don't even know that in the clubhouse is really right. In the clubhouse, I mean, that's a lot of guys. And I think they're all rooting for each other to get their money as much as they're maybe rooting for their team. You know, I think there's that. So I doubt that Cook would be resented by his teammates if he pushed on this. And, you know, is what it is. I mean, Brandon Ayuk last year, that was long. I mean, that was a drawn-out thing. With him in San Francisco, there was talk of a trade and, you know, how good is this player, everything else. He got a 4-year, $120 million contract with $76 million guaranteed. I doubt he regrets it. And then he got hurt. But which is one big reason why you even bother with this effort. I mean, he won. I think he won. So, again, a wide receiver, again, a 49er. What happens if Cook, this is the game. What happens if Cook stays away? Are the Bills just going to say, forget about it? We don't care? I doubt it. And, you know, that's what the whole thing is about. The players' guesses as to what the team would do and vice versa. What would you do if you were James Cook? Would you be here next week? Hey, no biggie. I was just messing around. I'll play for my 5.4. What do you mean? You know, questions like Diggs got about things that had been said or, you know, mentioned. And he'd be like, what are you talking about? I've always wanted to be here. I love it. They love Jimbo and Jimbo loves them. I don't know. That'd be tough. In a way, that would be tough. Why did you even bring it up then? If you were just going to, again, capitulate from day one. What would you do? 803-0550. Thanks for being with me today. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off. Warren Sharp joins me at 4 Eastern. This is WGR.
So ain't no hard feelings. I don't ever have beef with nobody. Like I said, everything gonna work out it's supposed to work.
James Cook back in minicamp. I was thinking that for all the time we've spent on him, and it all might be just, talk that got us through the offseason. We'll see if anything controversial comes from this. Maybe it won't. I mean, nothing has happened yet, but we're not even in the training camp yet. But for all the time spent, I had not thought about it all today until today, like what I would do if I were James Cook. And that really is it's a pretty personal choice. He's making more than ever. He's on a great team, if that means anything here. And if he has another big year, maybe he can expect to get paid in free agency or by the Bills, franchise tag, whatever it is. Maybe he just sort of trusts it all. A lot of guys don't, and I think those guys are right to not. An injury, it's over. Running backs, I think, I'll look for your calls again here in a moment, 803-0550. I think if Cook has the same season and the Bills tell him good luck in free agency, I don't know how well he even does then because he's not an every down player. So teams don't bet on touchdowns. The good ones don't. The good ones know not to. So anyway, it really could go either way here. I mean, it has been a lot of talking by us and fans about Cook. But what would you actually do if you were this player? 803-0550 is the number. Here's Michael next. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
I wanted to say that since day one, James Cook's been not really on my radar. Like that first fumble, really killed me. But look, he's an awesome player, and I feel like if he held out this season, he kind of screwed himself over. You got Ty Johnson and Ray Davis right there, ready to compete for his spot. I totally understand he deserves his money, but for right now in the league, he needs to just stay the course, finish the year, and then he'll get his money.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of money maybe next year. The problem is it's super competitive. You just had Aston Genty come in the league. That dude's going to be shining star. Is he going to be comparable to that guy, Cook? I don't know. No,
he definitely won't. He almost definitely won't. So that's the right point. I think that's the right point. And not to mention O'Marion Hampton or R.J. Harvey or Trevion Henderson, or I'll even mention Judkins, although he's in trouble now. So I don't know. 32 teams, and only one of them, and maybe that's the Bills, has to think you're worth it for you to win on that bet. But would that necessarily happen? I think this now about the Bills and the situation, but just to say going into next year, if he has a comparable season, that's 3,000-yard years in a row on a team that wins all the time. Who wants him to walk away at that point? Couldn't there be... That's what I think is going to happen now. And I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened already, where the Bills are like, okay, well, you've been great, and we're eyes on the prize. Here's your contract. It's not $15 million a year. It's 10 or 11. And he's like, okay, that's awesome. I'm in. But for some reason, that hasn't happened yet. And the Bills are not really the type to play super hardball, they've just not been that team. That's, again, a matter of interpretation, how you think or I think they would look at his value. Because I know they've drafted running backs to replace their current running backs over and over, ending with Cook. They didn't do that this year, though. Thanks for the call, Michael. Frank is next. Go ahead, Frank.
Hey, Mike. Happy Monday.
Thanks. Welcome.
I'm just saying, I kind of agree with Cook. I see all these players. I'm always for the players getting paid because I see several players just undervalued in there. I know we look at it as a good thing, but it's what if your job would tell you is hey, you want to take a lower salary so we could bring on some more guys? I mean, I just don't see it. And plus, fans getting angry with players wanting more money. I mean, that's not really our thing to say, you know? It's like when a player chooses to switch his jersey and then players get all up or fans, get all up in an uproar because they just want money. I mean, at the end of the day, he may not be worth $15 million, but I do believe he does deserve to get paid because I think this season we're going to see an explosive James Cook, and it's going to be better than last year.
So would you hold out?
I'm thinking I wouldn't hold out necessarily, but I do think that there should be like a compromise from them because I truly don't believe he's worth $15 million just yet, but I do think we're going to see something this year. That's
okay.
all I have to say, though.
Thank you. See, we're almost to the point where it's not about necessarily. I don't think I would necessarily do it. You got a week. You have a week to decide, or whatever, 9 days to decide what you're actually going to do. And that's, I think, really hard. If he wants the contract he's hinted at, how does he not hold out? How does he get it? How does he get it if he walks through that door next week without a new deal? He could show up knowing that there will be a contract or expecting that. He could show up and have that happen. But we won't know that. I just this whole time would love to know what the Bills' actual position is on this. We just know that there isn't a deal. What is their position? I mean, they could be, I don't know this answer. They could be $10 million a year for 3 years, and he could be like, nope. Or they could be, we don't need to talk to you at all. I mean, I doubt it would be like mean or anything, but the Bills really don't have to think that they need to negotiate with him because he's under contract for this season already. So they might, if you will, be willing to take his calls or not. I don't know. I don't know what it is. The fact that at every turn, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, and for that matter, Josh Allen, all say how much they love Jimbo, well, that's worthless. Of course they're going to not say different. That's just, some attempt to appease us, I guess, but we're smarter than that. We know not to care about that. Imagine if they said the opposite. That's the game you have to play with these kind of comments, rendering most of them useless. Oh, we don't like this player at all. I mean, they would never say that. I just don't know what their position is. It really is a pretty wide range, too. They might think he's worth a lot to them, but not as much as he wants, and this is the process. Or they might think that, we don't care. With running backs, we're just not gonna bother. Go ahead and hold out. Can you imagine if that was really how they felt? Is that believable? Might that be believable that they just will not? I think it's mostly not because, how Cook sounds in that clip and how that's back, a month ago or whenever that was. I mean, he didn't sound like the Bills are just not listening to him. He showed up and he said, I feel like it's going to get done, So it's probably not that they're just like, we are not going to negotiate with you. That's just not how they are. But what is their position? Brad is next. Hi, Brad.
Hey, I don't know what the Bills' position is, but based on what they're doing now, I think they're not going to pay them. They have paid their players they want to play, and they keep them. But I also would understand James Cook holding out because this is his last opportunity to have a big payday, and I don't know. It's hard for me to understand it as a guy who has to work 30 years to make what he's going to make this year on his contract. But I don't know. If it were me, I would play for what I agreed to, 4 years ago, and that's that.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. And I don't say this, I say this as somebody that I think of it as fair to say, like I've generally experienced the same thing in life. Everybody does different, but I am somebody that usually takes the deal. And the money we're talking about with Bills players and Sabres players is so much more that it makes it almost hard to like reasonably talk about. What his decision is a difference between like $5 million a year or $20 to $30 million guaranteed. I mean, what would $1 million guaranteed sound like to most of us? It would sound amazing. So does that change the equation in a way that should be remembered when talking about this? Maybe it does, but what do we do about it? We want to talk about it. So what do we do about it? I don't know. It's really interesting. Some of these topics that we squat on during the offseason are not always like so important or interesting, have the potential to be interesting. This one has been that, unless Cook has just the whole time been kidding. Like, worth a shot. What do I have to lose? It's not like they're going to take my contract away. And I can't imagine it would be like that. So we will see. Warren Sharp coming up at 4. The Home Run Derby is tonight. I, just out of habit, went to my fantasy baseball today and got out my app, figured out, who I should start this week. And then it went like all kinds of these weird choices, and the projections were all zeros. Oh, yeah, that's right. All-Star game week. So no games until later in the week. Home Run Derby is cool. A lot of you will watch that, I know. Lines are open for your calls. Warren Sharp at 4. This is Mike Schopp on WGR. Welcome back. Bit of a slow morning for me. It happens more than I should probably admit. A lot of it was on the phone, trying to get something done where you have to call the number and, you know, they put you through, push this button if you work here, all that kind of fun. And I love these, many of these kind of recordings say something like, this call is going to be recorded. This one today was to ensure a quality experience. I'm sure that's what we all were in it for when we called this company to pay a bill. A quality experience. That's what I wanted from it. I didn't want it to be over with immediately. I wanted a quality experience. That was actually a quality experience. Oh. Everything makes me crazy now. Like the words on everything. Listening, I got to be a little bit careful on this because we're this too. But listening, I was in the car yesterday for like 8 hours. And I put baseball on for almost the whole drive. The Yankee game, Yankees, Cubs. I had access to all of them. So some Reds, some Yankees, some Padres. And this is us too. But I still think it and mean it. Everything that happens in a game was brought to you by somebody. This walk would not have happened but for the local car dealership that brought the walk to you. The Yankees have that. The guy was the first batter of the game for the Cubs hit a home run. Now, I'm going to make a thing about how the play-by-play announcer's name or one of the announcers' name is Ricky Ricardo, because that might actually be his name. I don't know, but Ricky Ricardo is the one talking. The first batter of the game for the Cubs hits a home run, Michael Busch, and I think the second batter walked. And they're talking about, totally reasonable. They're talking about how Will Warren, the Yankee pitcher, has not gotten off to good starts. And like this game starts and the first guy hits a home run and the second guy walks. Like that's not great. But before he can even spit out anything about this after he walks, the guy's like, by the way, this walk is brought to you by blah, 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 because you should drive and not walk to work. It's so bad. The first walk was brought to you by somebody. The first, there were a bunch of them, right? Wouldn't there be? Somebody's job is to think of all this stuff. The first walk, the first stolen base. No, it wasn't stolen. What was it? Oh, cleanup. He's reading the lineups, and Stanton is the cleanup hitter. And by the way, cleaning up is brought to you by this cleaning company. And now batting fifth is so-and-so. It's just so much. The Padres, the guy the play-by-play announcer for the Padres has to remember to do this. I swear to you, this is real. Oh, the Padres outfielder makes the play. That'll put a smile on your face. And speaking of putting smiles on your face, this dentist. That really is a thing. Like, I wish I could have just tracked them all and reported back to you on how all this nonsense. Oh, that'll put a smile on your face. The guy must say, that'll put a smile on your face every game. Because if he doesn't, what do they lose money. The dentist would be like, what the heck? Where's my read? Brought to you by. We wouldn't have had this cleanup hitter. This game would have been without a cleanup hitter if the cleaning company didn't bring you this cleanup hitter today. That's why Giancarlo Stanton is in the lineup, or whoever would be batting fourth. That's why they're there, because of the cleaning company. Yikes. Can it just be sponsored by the people? But it has to be brought to you by. We wouldn't have had this fielder's choice if not for, I don't know, what would that be? I'm not smart enough to know. What would the fielder's choice sponsorship be? Something. Don't get forced into a situation you're not happy with, like this guy got forced at third. Baseball, I went to the Little League Museum yesterday for the first time. I have driven by that place, the Little League, the fields in Williamsport, the stadium, and the museum there and the whole thing. I've driven by that place on Route 15 probably 30 times, maybe more. Have never stopped there. And my son and I, we got out of that jackpot where they didn't have to play the losers bracket game in Maryland against another team from Buffalo, so we were like almost ahead of schedule. And you know what? You want to stop at the Little League Museum? I've never done that. How does that sound? And he's like, sure. So we went in, gift shop, And I was thinking like a lot of people, I think, when you're on the road, you want to be on the road. Like, you don't want to stop. It's already a long enough drive. But, so, we're in the gift shop, and I'm thinking, like, we're not going to want to do the museum. I just wanted to sort of take a picture of the ballpark down there and see it. And then I looked, and it was $8 for adults and $4 for kids. And like, for $12, do you want to take this tour? It's like half an hour. And we did. And it was great. Real, just interesting and fun and easy. And so I figured it would be good. I mean, it looks good. It's probably well-heeled, the Little League whole operation there. The World Series is in a couple of weeks or a month. And finally, I stopped there. So any feedback you have on that, or maybe you've been, anything about that, I'd like to know that you're out there. Warren Sharp coming up next. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
NFL training camps as the Chargers. They did so over the weekend as they'll be taking part in the Hall of Fame game along with the Detroit Lions. Big storyline, though, for all of the rookies is that 30 of the 32 second-round picks remain unsigned. That includes Chargers rookie wide receiver Trey Harris, as these rookies appear to be looking for fully guaranteed rookie deals. Bills second-round pick TJ Sanders among those 30 of the 32. Bills rookies will report tomorrow, with veterans reporting next week. It is MLB All-Star Week. It is down in Atlanta. The All-Star game is going to be tomorrow night. Well, tonight is the Home Run Derby. That is going to start just after 8 o'clock. And the Bills and Sabres Foundations, they will be hosting the 5th annual Give 716 Day, raising as much money for local charities as possible, beginning at 7:16 p.m. tomorrow evening and running until 11:59 p.m. Wednesday, July 16th. Over 550 charities are participating. All fans are encouraged to make a donation of any amount to their favorite charity or charities, and you can do so by going to give716.org between 7:16 p.m. Tuesday, July 15th and midnight on Wednesday, July 16th. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
You know, I gotta wonder what kind of working relationship he'd have with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp.
I've often wondered that. Well, he, they, I don't know what his pronouns are, or their pronoun. Anyway, Satan.
And the Bulldog.
What's the upside of doing well? Well, maybe they're too busy making everyone else's life hell.
Oh, boy.
And
wow.
you might just be able to do your own thing if you're partnered with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They're too busy, making Scott Norwood miss field goals.
Oh, come on.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Enough about 1990. Let's move forward, people. Looking ahead to 2025 is the excellent Warren Sharp. His football preview is coming out, and he joins me now on the West Her Hotline to promote and discuss it. Warren, how are you?
I'm doing great. Super happy that training camp is here for some teams. Obviously, the Chargers are there, and very soon on the horizon for others. And I've got that 2025 football preview book completed, so don't have to worry about researching, the season from last year anymore. We can turn the page completely to the 2025 season.
Which, for the most part, when it comes to the Bills, both are good. Looking last year was good, to a point, as often happened, and then this year looks promising too. Is there, just in general about them, Warren, something surprising from your research? Something that, they're favored in literally every game in Vegas. Is there something about the Bills you think, maybe to put it another way, people tend to get wrong?
Well, I just don't know. I am such a believer in Josh Allen and this offense, and just so much frustration about Sean McDermott and this defense. I don't know that people realize, if you read the book, you turn the Bills chapter, I don't know if people realize that Josh Allen, out of 24 playoff quarterbacks with at least 50 playoff pass attempts since 2020, Josh Allen is the best out of all 24 quarterbacks. Number one in EPA, number one in success rate, number one in touchdown to interception ratio, 25 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions in all of his playoff games. Yet you guys don't have a single AFC championship. You know why that is? Is because opponents score an average of 33.2 points against you guys when they beat you. And you allow the Kansas City Chiefs to score way more points against you guys. They average 34.8 points against you guys. Kansas City does in the playoffs when they beat you, and only 24.8 points against everybody else. That's a 10 full point increase when they play you guys in the playoffs than when they play anybody else. They've scored at least 27 points against you guys in 100% of the games that they've played you guys, and scored 27 points against the other 12 teams that they've played just 3 times. This is Sean McDermott. This is Sean McDermott's defense. This is why you guys went out there and 4 of your top 5 defensive signings were 4 of your top 5 most expensive free agency players that you signed were on the defensive side of the ball. This is why, for the first time in the Sean McDermott era, you used your first 5 draft picks on defense. It's the first time in 20 years, since 2006, the Bills used their first 5 picks on the defensive side of the football. Right now, they are trying to give Sean McDermott every little bit of edge that he can get on his side of the football, because his side of the football is what has been failing Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, and the city of Buffalo in the postseason here. And it's got to improve, or what is the point of Sean McDermott as the coach if his side of the ball continues to cause so many problems? And you've got literally and statistically the number one best playoff performing quarterback since 2020 operating your offense, and you can't get wins because your defense is allowing too many points.
Bang. Reading right from your preview, Warren, 5 playoff losses, the Bills have averaged 24.6 points per game, which is not only above average, but it's a touchdown above average for teams that lose in the playoffs. It's probably been, generally speaking, kind of lazy on my part to think about defense and draft capital and everything you're talking about, the investment on defense, to say, well, I mean, still it's Patrick Mahomes. What are you going to do? Or Burrow or Lamar Jackson. I mean, those guys are so good. Because I've been critical of the Bills investing so much draft capital on defense. Less so this year, I would say. But is there a simple theory or an answer to that? I mean, good is good, bad is bad. It's not like Mahomes was putting up huge numbers against everybody, like you pointed out.
I mean, a lot of it has to do with the scheme. The one thing I'm going to credit Sean McDermott for is adjusting against the Baltimore Ravens, even though Baltimore almost won, to utilizing a lot more man blitzes against Lamar Jackson, which is clearly the way to get after him. And it really rattled him. They jacked up their rate of man blitzing in the playoff game, and were able to beat Lamar Jackson only through that. If they didn't have those man blitzes that they increased, you know, obviously the Baltimore Ravens dropping the 2-point conversion, et cetera, but it's a different story there. So it's got to be on a week-to-week basis. This is one of the things. If you look around the NFL at some of these teams, look at who played in the Super Bowl last year. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs with Steve Spagnuolo. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles with Vic Fangio. Each of those defensive-minded coordinators, they aren't head coaches, they're coordinators, come up with new schemes and new systems every single week to tweak things, to adjust things, to attack the opponent, and to try to go after that opposing quarterback and minimize what that team can do on the scoreboard. And they do a great job. They're excellent single-game coordinators, Vic Fangio and Steve Spagnuolo. I don't know that I could say the same about Sean McDermott whatsoever. And so, like, it's coaching. You can get players in there, and hopefully they do. Hopefully they've thrown enough against the wall that some of these players end up sticking, and they're healthy enough that it ends up paying dividends for them, and it can at least support the offense. But, I mean, some of these stats like that are further deep down in the chapter you asked before, what's something that would surprise the Bills? Mm-hmm. If I didn't already shock you, this one's gonna blow your mind. The last year Buffalo Bills defensively had massive regression on that side of the ball. The only thing that saved them was the takeaways that they had. 18% of opponent drives ended in turnovers, yet they forced punts on a 31st highest rate of any team in the NFL. They weren't good at getting stops. They weren't good at allowing drives to reach the red zone. They ranked 30th in rate of drives that were allowed to reach the red zone. The only thing that saved them was the takeaways. And in fact, the Bills in 2024 were the first defense since 2000 to allow at least 35% of opponent drives to reach the red zone while simultaneously generating turnovers on at least 16% of opponent drives. Getting those takeaways was the only thing that made the defense look reasonably respectable in the regular season. And that's not bankable year over year. Getting all those takeaways is not something that typically happens. And I did the analysis in the book, which, by the way, if you guys are listening and you're finding some of these stats interesting, you can get the book over at sharp.football for just $1 if you use the code BILLS. If you go to sharp.football, it's a 586-page book. We've written previewing the teams and their expectations this year, 32 different chapters. We'll give it to you for just $1 if you enter the code BILLS, reduce the price from $30. But this book is going to really open your mind to a few things, and this is one of them. I think that defense is going to regress from a takeaway perspective, so they better figure out a better way on a down-to-down basis of slowing opposing offenses to prevent drives from continually converting on third down, moving the ball into the red zone, and putting up points.
With Warren Sharp, I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off today. The skill position guys here, Warren, that's been hotly debated too. We had Brandon Bean come on the station earlier this offseason right after the draft and sort of really aggressively pushing back against the idea that not enough has been done at wide receiver. I think it was Bill Barnwell, ESPN rated the Bills' skill position guys 28th out of 32 teams. Is that how you see it? Is it enough to just be like, Allen is way up here and he can cover all this other stuff that's happening? Or is there maybe some more talent or things to like about their skill position players for you?
Well, I don't know that I agree with your GM. We're not as low on the team as Bill Barnwell and ESPN. We rank their receiving room as the 25th, so a little bit higher, but still not great. Running back room as 12th. Offensive line as 9th. It's just that your quarterback is so elite. And what happens in certain situations like this is you're as a GM, you're looking at why is my team losing games? And I think that's where I think you can directly point the finger at the defensive side of the football and your head coach, who is largely responsible for that side of the football. When you see the moves that the GM is making, drafting all these defensive players, going out in free agency and paying all these defensive players, he knows that, like, Josh Allen can kind of, he's not a coach, but he's coaching up that offensive side of the ball, right? He's improving the ceiling of the entire offense just by him being the quarterback and everything he can do with his legs and his arm, his mobility. And so you don't need necessarily a number one wide receiver to still have the best offense in the NFL with Josh Allen at quarterback. But the defense doesn't have somebody who's coaching him up, who's putting him in the right systems and schemes to get a better sum of the parts than the individual pieces. And as a result, you have to improve all the individual pieces and spend all the money on those individual pieces to try to get it right. So I agree that it would make Josh Allen's life a lot easier. And I'm sure Josh Allen, like, look at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's lobbying hardcore for what? For his receivers to get paid, right? The Cincinnati Bengals defense is terrible, but at least they have top flight receivers. Your defense, like I said, statistically was really lacking in a number of key categories, but for the takeaways, if you don't get those takeaways, you're struggling on that side of the ball as well. And Josh Allen doesn't have those receivers on the offensive side of the ball. So life is going to be much more difficult for Josh Allen as a result of this. But, I mean, it's hard to say that he's not being paid commensurately, like he's being paid a ton of money to go out there and produce hard for the team. But they're not making his life easier. But hopefully at the end of the day, it helps raise the floor of this team and ultimately the ceiling in the playoffs to finally get to a Super Bowl, which is what I think he deserves. I mean, all this talk about criticizing Josh Allen over this nitpicking thing and that nitpicking thing is just so tiresome to me and lazy, in my opinion. It's not accurate whatsoever. Just look at the stats, look at the data behind him. The team, obviously, he's going to point his finger first at him anytime the team loses in the playoffs, but rightfully it needs to go to a lot of other players and coaches on that roster more so than Josh Allen. And the team is only there and doing what it's doing because of Josh Allen.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like last year at this time, a lot of the discourse was about his reputation for mistakes. And guys like yourself, and we would do this, would point to his playoff stats and be like, that's really not true. I mean, really in the playoffs has not been why they've lost. It's really what you've laid out here and what they've given up in those games, and that continued last year. This year, I'm not hearing it so much. In fact, like, it seems like today everybody's ranking quarterbacks, Warren. We've got all kinds of other rankings are out there, and you know where the tier break is. Do you have a take on that? Like, you've got a considered big four, maybe it's five, and I don't really find it that worthwhile to try to rank the guys at the top. I mean, I think you could make an argument for a few different guys at one.
I agree. I agree with you completely, Mike. But look, to me, I find, and I don't want to insult your profession, obviously, but there are people in the media who build careers or bide a lot of time on ranking well, this guy's number one, but this guy's number two. Oh, well, I'll give you 20 arguments why the number two guy is better than the number one guy. At the end of the day, none of that actually matters. What irks me the most, Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and deserves to be very high on any sort of top 10 list. Joe Burrow deals with one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, one of the worst supporting run games in the NFL, and one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And if you look at Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, all three of those guys have a far better run game than what Joe Burrow deals with. They have a far better offensive line than what Joe Burrow deals with. And they have a far better defense overall, even though I've got throwing some stones at your guys' defense. That Cincinnati Bengals defense is terrible. And so, yes, Joe Burrow, in my opinion, is one of the absolute best quarterbacks in the NFL. Throwing stones at like a Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen because these guys can't get past what? The Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs are one of the best teams that we have seen. They are a dynasty team. They've got one of the best head coaches ever, one of the best quarterbacks ever, one of the best defensive coordinators ever, in my opinion, for a single game calling plays. He is up there. And the fact that more teams aren't looking at him for a head coaching job just helps propel this dynasty engine along for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so, nobody would have the same slights to throw at Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, for example, if those guys actually won one Super Bowl. But because you've got Patrick Mahomes and that engine that's the Kansas City Chiefs standing in their way, it's just simply very difficult to do it. And I don't think it's worthwhile to argue as to why the top quarterbacks in the NFL, the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, aren't actually the top 3 to 5 quarterbacks when clearly for most people they are. And I can tell you statistically they are. It is also fun for me to see a guy like a Jaden Daniels, get viewed as a great quarterback. But he's got a lot of work to do and a lot of years to put in my opinion, to be ranked as a top 5 quarterback, even though I felt what he did last year was extremely special. But I'm not going to sit here and waste too much time like throwing stones at him. He's just 1 year into the NFL. So many other quarterbacks after 1 year in the NFL are not anywhere close to him. So, at the end of the day, I don't have too much to say about that top 5 ranking. And I thought certainly, the top 4 quarterbacks in some order were probably accurate. And I don't think it's worth really debating that ranking as to where they were in the top 4 to too much detail.
Right. Warren Sharp here on WGR. I'm Mike Schopp. A few minutes more with Warren. So, fairly critical. I think you'd agree on sort of the McDermott and the Bills defense here in these playoff losses. They have kind of breezed to the playoffs for the most part here, 5 years in a row in the AFC East, rarely even much challenged. You might sound to somebody listening like you're kind of ready to see someone else move in. Is anybody ready to move in? Is this year where the Bills get pushed in the division or no?
Well, that's the best part for being a Bills fan is that like these other teams in your division all have issues that they're dealing with. The Patriots seem to be the one team that obviously started furthest behind that actually has a clear direction that you feel good about a little bit more long term with a new head coach in Mike Vrabel and young quarterback in Drake May who could, they're expected. I don't know if you know this. You knew this stat on the number of wins games that the Bills are favored in, which is all 17. Mm-hmm. Did you know that this year the New England Patriots are favored in 11 out of 17 games? There aren't that many teams that are favored in more games than that this year. They're favored in 11 games, which is ridiculous to me after how few games that they won last year. But it just goes to show that they are viewed as one of these teams that's going to have a massive bounce-back season compared to what we saw from them last year. I'm not big on Justin Fields, so I think quarterbacks are the single driving engine to teams and their offensive play caller. So they've got an offensive play caller who is a relatively unknown commodity, and then they've got Justin Fields at quarterback. I think the Jets still are struggling to find out what they are. I also think their ownership is probably one of the worst in the NFL, so that doesn't hurt your guys' case at all for being the Buffalo Bills and having them in your division. And then you look at the Miami Dolphins. The problem for Miami is just that offensive line is just a huge problem that they're going to have to plan around nonstop. And you have a quarterback who has an injury history and planning around an offensive line that's so bad that it encumbered and prevented the run game from even having some success last year is going to limit them. So I believe that you guys are in the best position once again heading into this season. And when you look at, the opportunity that lies for you guys, you have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. You have the 5th easiest schedule of opponents. It's part of the book as well that I wrote up. You have net rest edge that you're going to have to be working through because you got the 4th net rest edge. And from week 10 through 18, you will play 4 games at a net rest disadvantage and just 1 game with a rest edge. So you're going to have to work through the rest aspect of things late in the year. But if you look at your overall strength of schedule, 5th easiest. You look at your 4 toughest opponents this year, the Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles, Cincinnati Bengals. All of those are at home. So you've got a big edge in terms of who you play, when you play them, how you play them. The only thing that is you're going to have to work over is like some net rest disadvantage. Other than that, there's a great opportunity for you guys to once again have a lot of edge over the other teams in the AFC East. There's a lot of pros that have been betting the Buffalo Bills to win the AFC East and having to lay twice as much as they're going to take back because they just feel so confident that the Buffalo Bills are going to move into the postseason and win the AFC East. And I can't argue with that one bit. I don't think that there's anybody in your division who is ready to overtake that crown from you. And, we'll see. I think all the other teams are a couple of years away.
See, this is why we do things, Warren, in sports radio, like rank quarterbacks obsessively, because there's a pretty good chance, again, this year, we're going to be sitting here for 6 months and still not have the answer on this thing. I mean, we'll enjoy the games. It's a long off season, and then, it's all going to be about what happens against Kansas City again or whoever it is in January. And this is not actually even to win a Super Bowl. I mean, if the Bills had the Chiefs season last year, 15-2, 1 seed, Super Bowl, and then blown out, I wonder what that would feel like here. It's progress, but it's still like the Bills and their history. It still means the one thing that they've failed to accomplish would, again, have been failed to accomplish.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of sport in general, and especially with the way that the NFL plays out. It's different than baseball or hockey or basketball where there are 7-game series. It's like that one Super Bowl. You got the AFC Championship, you got a Super Bowl, and you can't afford to have any downtrend in any one of those games, or it might cost you that game, and then it costs you your whole season. And then you look back and you say, it was good, but really, what did we accomplish? And so I do believe that you guys would probably feel good if you made it to the Super Bowl because it absolutely is progress. And I'd feel great if you guys were able to get past the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs and make it to a Super Bowl, and your defense actually balled out and played well. But at the end of the day, you're right. You need to win a Super Bowl. And the biggest thing to me is with that 5th easiest schedule and the 4 or 5 toughest opponents that you have all being at home, what you really need is to secure the number 1 overall seed in the AFC this year. You host the Kansas City Chiefs. You host the Baltimore Ravens, 2 of the 3 teams that are going to be vying for the AFC. You need to win those home games. You have an early bye in Week 7. You're at a rest disadvantage for a lot of games down the stretch. Week 14, Week 15, Week 17, you're at rest disadvantage in all those games. Win enough games to ensure that you can take a week off in Week 19, let everybody else duke it out, host playoff games in Buffalo through that AFC Championship. Only have to win 2 games instead of 3. It's laid out right there for you with the schedule. You guys just need to execute, and the defense needs to step up. You can't control health. You were one of the healthiest teams in the NFL last year. Your offensive line was healthy. You did a great job from a health perspective. You need to try to manage that. You have no idea what's going to happen here from a health. Your turnovers are probably going to regress. You just need Josh Allen to continue to ball out. That's something that's pretty bankable, given what we've seen historically. You need the defense to step up, and I think you guys are in a really good position to once again play very, very meaningful games in January. Hopefully they're at home.
Yes. Yeah, they have been fortunate. You mentioned the turnovers often, and offensive line, I think they had the same 5 guys on the field for the vast majority of their snaps last year, so they were fortunate in that respect. Sharp.football for the preview. $1 with the promo code BILLS. Do I have that right?
That's right.
Very cool. Thanks, Warren. I look to you for a lot of stat stuff. We talk about your work all the time. Rich Rebar is one of my guys, too. There's a lot of fantasy-friendly, actionable data in the preview as well. Thanks for your time today.
We'll have to get Rich on your show at some point here, Mike.
Yes, he was on once. He said something controversial, and we took that as an opportunity. But,
okay.
Yeah, he's a star. Very good. Thanks, Warren.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Warren Sharp on the West Shore Hotline. Yeah, Rich, what did he say? He says things. He's really good, Rich Rebar, H-R-I-B-A-R, and he contributes to Warren's football preview and website. 803-0550. Well, he put that on a tee for some of you who have made the Sean McDermott points before. Is he right? Lines are open. Talking about James Cook earlier as well. We'll bounce around some. Bulldog is not here this week. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
East, this came down just moments ago per multiple reporters. Jets and wide receiver Garrett Wilson have reached an agreement on a 4-year, $130 million contract extension, and that does include $90 million guaranteed. Teams are beginning to report to training camps, at least rookies are. The Chargers did so over the weekend, though second-round pick Trey Harris not among them. He is part of 30 of 32 second-round picks not signed yet. He is the first one, though, to be holding out. The Bills will report to training camp, or at least their rookies will report to training camp tomorrow. Second-round pick TJ Sanders among those not signed yet, while the Bills veterans will report next week. It is MLB All-Star Week down in Atlanta. The game will be on Tuesday, while tonight it is the Home Run Derby. That is set to begin just after 8 o'clock. And the Bills and Sabres Foundations will be hosting the 5th annual Give 716 Day, raising as much money for local charities as possible, beginning at 7:16 p.m. tomorrow and running until 11:59 p.m. Wednesday, July 16th. Over 550 charities are participating. All fans are encouraged to make a donation of any amount to their favorite charity or charities, and they can do so by going to give716.org between 7:16 p.m. Tuesday, July 15th, and midnight on Wednesday, July 16th. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
You allow the Kansas City Chiefs to score way more points against you guys. They average 34.8 points against you guys. Kansas City does in the playoffs when they beat you, and only 24.8 points against everybody else. That's a 10 full point increase when they play you guys in the playoffs than when they play anybody else. They've scored at least 27 points against you guys in 100% of the games that they've played you guys, and scored 27 points against the other 12 teams that they've played just 3 times.
Warren Sharp from just a bit ago here on WGR. I mean, I guess I feel attacked. No, the annoying thing about arguments that come with data is they're kind of hard to disprove. And for the record, my attitude about this, Sean McDermott and the future, is that, okay, now I'm ready. This is it. I mean, he's right, Warren. And I told him, I think this year, at least it's not, to my ears anyway, not as annoying as before when it comes to Allen and the Bills' playoff losses. Because I think he got stereotyped by things that didn't really happen that often to begin with. But picks, turnovers in the playoffs, and this is why the Bills lose. Not everybody said that, but it was said often enough. And I think here at GR, we kind of all went, wait a minute, that isn't actually what's happening, though. And again, we had the numbers to back it up, and so would have other people. So this is the problem. And I know, I'm just speaking for myself, some of you have been on this square for years. The McDermott point in the playoffs. Last year for me was really bad in this area. They didn't have the injury excuse like they'd had the previous year when they lost at home. And further, maybe more importantly, the Chiefs were worse. I mean, that was the year. I'm not going to talk about this for long because we all make the point and then just sort of becomes depressing. But last year was a terrible year for Kansas City on offense, but they won all the time. So you had to go there in the playoffs. And what happened? The Bills still gave up 32 points in that game, maybe 32-29, was it? So it should have been good enough to win and wasn't. And as hard as it'll be, and maybe it'll just not even be something the Bills even think about, making a change there. But next year is going to be when if it happens again, that's when I'm going to be like, all right, well, I gave this a plenty long time to get there. And I didn't. And I just can't sit here and do nothing as the owner when we have the same result year after year, which is playing the Chiefs and allowing their offense to be much better than it was for most of the season or even in the postseason. And that really was a shame last year, because that was not a Chiefs team by its performance during the season and into the playoffs that should have been able to score in the 30s against you. And it didn't. And so what do you do about it, right? My head coach is about the defense mostly. And if that's why I'm losing with Allen as good as he is, it seems pretty simple, but it's not easy. You know, when a team wins as often as the Bills do, that's not an easy call to make, which, is maybe why it hasn't been made yet. I wonder what the owner thinks. I tend to think he feels like it's probably ridiculous to even talk about it. Plus, he's got his hockey team where he can't get anywhere. And you want to tell me that the Bills need a new coach? Like, really? Do you watch sports? I mean, I could imagine him feeling that way about on this topic. But I don't know. Like Bulldog says, do you get the job forever because you win the division every year, which is weak? Like, do you just get to do it for as long as you want? Is it McDermott's job for life? Last year was really rough. And the Ravens game doesn't help, because as good as they are, turnovers got Baltimore beat. I mean, they didn't punt once in the game. The drop at the end. The Bills' defense, neither in that game, did much to stop Baltimore. So what do I do about it? I'm not eager to pontificate on it because, again, it's depressing, and it's also, we're not there. Like, it's July, not January. And maybe we'll get to January and this will be what we're talking about. Hopefully not. But at this point, it's not about making changes. It's about figuring out, firstly, how to get to that 1 seed to give yourself a substantially easier, better path to the Super Bowl. And everybody knows that, and that's what this year really, is about. We've had some interesting debates over the years about the 1 seed and how big it is. And I don't know, like, it's a little bit ironic for me this year because I don't love their roster. Like, I think a lot of what Warren lays out, I mean, I've thought, like, defensively, we'll see what the changes bring. They certainly went for it on defense. We'll see about Maxwell Hairston and whether he can be what they need at corner. Like, he may need to start. If he doesn't hit it, and Trey White being where he's at in his career, the Bills could really be vulnerable there. Like, that, as Sal has said, that's their only starting position battle, really, is corner. And that's one where you just hope to be okay, I think. Hope eventually better than that. I mean, it is a first-round pick, Hairston. But you want to just not get crushed by what you've got there. You hope for the best there. Yeah, like, what's ironic to me is the wide receiver point that's been beaten to death, the luck, to a point anyway, turnovers and injuries, that stuff that's gone right for them. The schedule they have this year, I don't think it has to be the odds to win the division. I don't think it has to be a team that just dominates all year. I mean, that's what last year pretty much was. They breezed, except for the 2 losses in a row early. And the Ram game was, they lost the Rams game on a blocked punt. That game was back and forth. So that was a pretty easy year. Division wasn't strong. Jets fell apart. Patriots were nowhere. Miami wasn't up to it. Division fell apart. You got the turnover stuff. You stayed healthy. Wasn't enough. I think this year should be more challenging. I think maybe any year should be more challenging than that. But the schedule is pretty easy, and it still might be the kind of year where they don't quite dominate like that, but they can win 13 or 14 games. And then you need whoever it is to just not beat that out. And I wouldn't expect that to happen. Like, I would think with the schedules that the Chiefs and the Ravens have, I think I'm going to call that 13 wins, 13-4 for anybody this year is great. I mean, Last year, Kansas City won 15 games, and who knows how they did it. I don't know. Like, I think maybe, is this an easy call to make? 13 wins is the one? How do you feel about that? Is 13 wins going to be the one? I would take it for the Bills. Like, we have these conversations all the time. Would you take this or that? And I think you almost have to take 13 every year. Anytime, it's offered, you would take it. So I think maybe that's not saying much to say yes to that. But even with the schedule the Bills have, you got to think 13 wins. I mean, it sounds almost obnoxious to ask for this way. Oh, wow, this Bills guy is taking 13-4 for his team. Wow, big hot take. 803-0550 for your calls. Home Run Derby is tonight. Tomorrow, the All-Star Game. The Ravens and the Bills. We talked to Jeremy Kahn last Monday from Baltimore about how similar the paths have been for those two teams. Great regular seasons, losses in the playoffs. Warren Sharp was interesting on Baltimore and their playoff struggles and how Sean McDermott and the Bills figured out a good strategy to defend them. They also, Jackson made, I don't blame him. If you remember the plays in that game, one is an Andrews fumble. That's not the drop either at the end. The Andrews fumble downfield in the fourth quarter. You can't blame a quarterback for that. The interception he threw looks bad, and I don't know what was actually the problem there, a communication thing, but the receiver is not in the area. So it's one of those picks you just kind of rarely see a great quarterback make. The fumble is really for him in that game what was, disastrous. That's a play that you just have to, easy for anybody to say, but just you have to eat that loss there. And the turnover, that kind of stuff is what has gotten them beat in the postseason. Different than the Bills. The Ravens' losses have been on turnover, on mistakes. Zay Flowers at the 1-yard line against the Chiefs the year before. Not just being, run over, if you will, run over on defense like the Bills have been in at least their Kansas City playoff losses. I was talking about James Cook earlier. What would you do if you were Cook? Show up? Sit out? What would your strategy be? 803-0550. We'll talk about him some more next hour. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR. Stopping by again to make this point that Twitter gets a bad rap. Not that it isn't bad for the things people criticize it for. Most of all might be, well, I'm not saying this is the worst thing about it. I don't want to say that because it's going to be, whatever that is going to be something more serious. But the way fans sometimes go after athletes who drop a pass or, miss a save or something is just, how could you ever do that? I know that happens. I see it through fantasy sometimes where somebody will have a bad game and people are tweeting at them. Just like, what a loser. That's one of the most loser moves I can think of, would be to do that. But because we're so obsessed with blaming Twitter for social ills, it doesn't get credit for the cool stuff. And, it's got the basic feature of basically keeping you like you're never at a loss for what's going on. There's that, obviously. And then there are just sometimes really fun, I love my sports stats, and there are sometimes just really fun and interesting graphics and data compilations that I would never, if I used ESPN.com ever, I might find stuff like this there. But Twitter just gives it right to you. And there was one of these today. NHL, most recent 50-goal scorer by franchise. I'd never thought of breaking this down this way. I think it was like new to me to read this and to think about it. The last Sabres to score 50 goals in a season were McGillney and LaFontaine, who both did it 92-93. I think the way scoring has kind of come back in hockey, maybe it seems, you have 50-goal seasons now. Draisaitl, Reinhart did it for Florida. You might think that it's going to be more common. It is a little bit, but it's still true that only 4 Sabres have ever scored 50 goals. Some of their greatest players have just never did it. Perreault never did it. He never scored 50 goals. Thompson has gotten to 47, but he never did it. People might think of René Robert for this, but I don't know if he ever came close. Like he was not the big goal scorer, say, that Rick Martin was. McGillney, 76 goals. Gare, LaFontaine, and Martin are the only Sabres to ever hit 50, and Martin and Gare each did it twice. But some of the names on here are really interesting. You have 7 franchises where no one has ever scored 50 goals. Like, nobody's ever scored 50 goals for the Devils. Wow. They're the Devils, but still, nobody? Elias, somebody from the 80s when they were the Rockies even, like nobody's ever done it? I guess nobody's ever done it. The other teams are more obvious because they're newer, like Vegas and Nashville, these teams. But some of the names are Pierre Turgeon. The same year McGillney and LaFontaine hit 50 for Buffalo, Turgeon traded for LaFontaine in that massive deal with the Islanders. He's the last Islander to do it, according to this chart that I'm reading today. I haven't looked all these. I haven't back-checked all these. Like, I'm assuming these are right. It looks like the kind of work where somebody would have made sure. So that's my excuse. But Pierre Turgeon is the last 50-goal scorer for the Islanders. Would you have guessed that? And, some are pretty recent. Obviously, I mentioned a couple. Matthews for the Leafs, McKinnon, Pasternak for Boston. But others, you're going back decades, like with the Sabres. And Carolina has never had a 50-goal scorer as Carolina, but Hartford did with Blaine Stoughton. And I only know this name from hockey cards, because you would get in cards then, if not still, the leaders. Goal scoring, points, penalty minutes was one. And remember Stoughton for this. 1981-82, 50-plus for Hartford. One other thing. So you have Atlanta. Okay, that they did do this. I was going to say the Arizona franchise is kind of in limbo. Like they didn't just move everything to Utah. I think because they want to keep it alive that maybe they will return to Arizona. So Utah did, just like with the Ravens and the Browns, Utah didn't take all their history. Like they're considered new. But Winnipeg and Atlanta, those teams aren't really. What do you do with them? But this chart did think of that. I was thinking that maybe it didn't, but there's Atlanta at the bottom. Kovalchuk did it. So Howardchuk wouldn't be ignored from this list. Kovalchuk more recently for that franchise. So I'm glad to see they did that. I'll get back to James Cook. I'd love to know what you think you would do if you were Cook. That's a good one. 803-0550 to call in. I'm Mike Schopp. This is WGR.
Big payday in the AFC East as the Jets and wide receiver Garrett Wilson have reached an agreement on a 4-year, $130 million contract extension. In that contract, it also includes $90 million guaranteed. Not the only wide receiver news from today. The Chargers have placed Mike Williams on the PUP list as the Chargers. Their rookies got to camp over the weekend, and some other wide receiver news for them. Second-round pick Trey Harris is not reporting to camp. He is holding out. He is one of 30 second-round picks who have not yet signed their rookie deals. This does appear to stem from second-round rookies wanting fully guaranteed contracts. And for the Bills, their rookies will report tomorrow, and TJ Sanders is among those second-round rookies who have not yet signed. It is MLB All-Star Week down in Atlanta. Tonight is the All-Star Home Run Derby. Tomorrow will be the All-Star Game. The Derby will get going at 8 p.m. And the Bills and Sabres Foundations, they are going to be hosting the 5th annual Give 716 Day, raising as much money for local charities as possible, beginning at 7:16 p.m. tomorrow evening and running till midnight Wednesday, July 16th. Over 550 charities are participating. All fans are encouraged to make a donation of any amount to their favorite charity or charities. To do so, go to Give716.org between 7:16 p.m. Tuesday, July 15th and midnight on Wednesday, July 16th. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Raisin Bran. You got to put Raisin Bran up there. Everybody knows it.
It's Mike Schopp.
Listen, get your own stupid old dying person team and choose your own cereals.
And the Bulldog.
I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves.
That cereal is soggy. You reach into the fridge for the milk and open the lid on the milk to pour it in there, and that crap is already soggy.
I am untethered and my rage knows no bounds.
That's a problem. That's a problem for a cereal. I
huge
think.
problem.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, would like to hear from you on this for all the hours spent on James Cook and what he's worth and will he get it and everything around those things. Have we asked the question, what would you do if you were James Cook? That's a good question. I think for all the time I've spent thinking and talking about this, I don't think I've really thought of that question before today. Would you hold out? He's got a contract this year for $5.4, more money than he's made in his career total. Got a pretty good thing here. This might be how the Bills would sound about it. Look, I mean, we're saving your body, not even playing half the snaps. Look at the team success. You're set up to do even better in free agency, whether it's here or somewhere else. But I've thought this about Cook the whole time. How does he, I mean, it wasn't like he held press conferences, but he was so public, relatively speaking, about how he wanted a lot more money. How do you just walk in the door on a week from Wednesday and be like, oh, all right, didn't get it? I mean, I just think that would be tough to do. I would feel like a chump. Unless I was just kidding the whole time, which would be hard to believe. I would feel like a chump if I, repeatedly during the offseason made reference, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, for how much money I thought I was not getting, but I was worth. And then the season comes along and just like, yeah, well, I'm here. Let's play ball. Why did I even say anything then? Like, what a pushover I would be. Guys hold out in this situation often enough. Maybe it's going to be Jawan Jennings from the 49ers. Today that came out, that he wants a trade or a new deal, trying, like Cook would be, to capitalize on a bump last year statistically. I mean, a big one. Both guys, in terms of touchdowns with Cook anyway. So, because everything else was pretty much the same. So this is your chance. What would you do? I mean, play it any way you want. Maybe you wouldn't have gone to Twitter with requests for $15 million, or maybe you would have. Would you have done what he's done and now just basically That's whatever. WE. Didn't happen. Never mind. That would be tough. 803-0550. What would you do if you were James Cook? Here's Ellen on WGR. Hi, Ellen.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
I think that he should be negotiating better with the Bills and accept a reasonable offer. I mean, he is a good running back, but for him being so young, I don't think $15 million was reasonable. And I think the way he went public, the Bills really don't like that. And I don't think they'll put up with his drama.
How do we know what the Bills are offering him?
Well, don't you think it's at least 10 or 11 million? I mean, everyone else got a decent contract, Khalil Shakir and Christian Dunford and Greg Rousseau. I think he's worth at least 10 or 11 million. If I were the Bills, that's what I'd be offering him.
Yeah, I'd love to know. I mean, I've thought this whole offseason like that's around where this should end up. But if they are offering that and he's balking, that's weird. To me, that's like he's pretty serious. But then he was also at minicamp. So I don't know what to think. But you're right. You're right. The Bills have been pretty, doable, if you will, with other guys. So I think that that's probably how they would be here. But we don't really know yet.
Yeah, I think he'll go to training camp next week. I do. Because he's going to blow his whole career if he does a standout, I think. Or hold out, whatever it's called.
Yeah, hold out is right. Yeah. Thanks, Ellen. I don't think it has to be that dramatic. I just will say again, it would be just in a certain way disappointing if he just goes to training camp. Like nothing was ever said or tweeted or, discussed. Because then what was the point? I think you have to do a little bit better than that if you're going to be this way about money. And training camp is still training camp. It's not the season. What is it? July 23rd is camp. July, August, September. September is the season. And he's probably not a guy that plays much, if at all, in the preseason anyway. Practices. There's more symbolism maybe to training camp. And, it's a violation of your contract if you're not there. There's the practical side of it. But it's not like a lot of that necessarily will be needed for him to be at camp. It's just going to be a story, a quote distraction, fines, all of this if he's not there. Do you think, like the caller, that the Bills are ready to give him at least $10 million? I would be almost shocked if they were and he hasn't taken it. And that could be something, again, that changes in, the next few weeks. Negotiations, maybe they're not at 10. Maybe he expects they'll get there and then he'll be okay. I don't know. I just know for myself, and I'm not really proud. I'm not at all proud of this, actually, that, not that you care, but in my career, I think of this being true anyway. Like I'm pretty easy to work with. I've never had an agent. I've never, one time a little bit, but really not ever been, I guess, difficult. I don't even like the word difficult because that's not the only way to put that. You could also just call it sticking up for yourself, in a negotiation. It doesn't have to be difficult is maybe what the management would call it, right? Because you didn't. Why aren't you here? What's the problem? This is what we're going to give you, all of it. And so I don't know. I think if it were me, and I don't know, it's what are we doing here? Are we comparing ourselves to James Cook? I know, but if it were me, I wouldn't be the type to, I think, go public with what I wanted. If it were a lot more than I was getting, anything like that. I've never done anything like that. And then but again, like I said about Cook, if I were to do it, I think you kind of have to mean it. Not that it has to be 15, but it has to be more than you're making. It has to be a new contract. And also, I'm asking you to tell me what you would do if you were Cook, but just in the course of all the conversation about him, Bulldog has said many times that he thinks the Bills are not ready to make a new deal for him, and he doesn't blame them for that. And I have kind of felt the way more how Ellen, the caller, was talking, like we're going to get there. Just, I don't know. Like, it seems to me like it should have been easy. But if they're out on paying a lot of money for a running back, or if he's out on anything that isn't 15, now we got something. If one or both of those things are true, this will drag on. Here's Brian next. Hi, Brian.
Hey, I do think so to your question, what would I do in the situation? The dollars associated with it are just so big. I can't even wrap my head around it. If someone were to offer me $5 million tomorrow to put my body at risk for 20 weeks, sure, I'm going to do it. But obviously these guys are in a different class. My thing is, I think he is going to end up buckling. Part of business is posturing. And I look at someone like, I believe it was Le'Veon Bell when he held out. I could be wrong with the Jets. He cost himself so much future money by doing that, because when he came back, he was never the same. And the two remind me a lot of each other in the running styles, kind of patient, ready to bounce and then go. So I think that's kind of a good case study for what it looks like if he does hold out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm looking up Bell, Brian, because he did get a contract. He lost a year with the Steelers, but he did get, I think it was good at the time from the Jets. It just, he had 1 year was spent, and he got $0 for that, if I remember right. I don't know. But then after that, I think really that's where it is. Running back isn't really the longevity position, right? And everyone had the same kind of thought that, he's going to take a year off. That's less wear on the tire. It's less this, it's less that. But it's also a year away from the game. And you hear these guys, whether it be in hockey, football, baseball, whatever their pro sport is, you take that time away, catching back up to game speed, or if the desire isn't exactly there the same way it was, you lose. You lose steps. You lose that mental piece of it, I guess. And that would be a pretty stunning outcome, right? I mean, that's unusual. Thanks, Brian. That's very unusual when you get there. Cook isn't Le'Veon Bell, but I get the point. I'm not thinking, I guess you maybe have to, but I have not been thinking much at all of that outcome where he just does not show up ever. Like he just will not play for the Bills or something like that. I mean, there's really no scent of that. But does there have to be? If there's a real difference in the two sides, what happens? Somebody moves, or it just doesn't ever change. I can't believe, as somebody that did not have to be, I did not need my arm twisted to understand the running back value thing. Just how replaceable the position is. I think of Bulldog getting there before I did, but I mean, how many times would we see Todd Gurley's go out and C.J. Anderson's go in and it looked the same? I mean, you didn't have to work hard to convince me about this. And I think the Bills, for the most part, are, savvy. I don't think they're necessarily the top organization for whatever you want to call it, analytics-driven theories or whatever it would be called, but they hold their own. I mean, the Bills have done a lot of smart things. I can't believe, saying all of that they would just not have the door cracked open at all to a good deal for him. I just don't. I'm thinking that that's not the case. I'm thinking that they would be willing to do a 3 or even 4 year deal with him that pays him great. If I guess I'll find out if I'm right about that. Maybe I'm not, and just like, no, we just will not. This is the proverbial hill we're going to die on. Everybody else gets paid, but a guy who scored 20 touchdowns last year, including playoffs for us, like tied the franchise record in regular season rushing touchdowns, this is where we're going to draw that line. Does that not sound crazy to you that they would do that? So what do we have? If that's correct, that the Bills would do something that most people would consider generous in the running back landscape, and he doesn't agree to it, then we have a player who, like we might have assumed when he started tweeting back months ago, is just not going to settle for top of the market. I mean, $15 million is close enough to that. Here's Andrew next. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good.
If I'm Cook and his agent, and he put that number out there months ago, just like you mentioned, you have to sit back and you have to, continue to negotiate. From his standpoint, I don't think he can show up to training camp. If he does, he loses all credibility. And then on top of it all, the guy's got Hard Knocks coming in. It's a great story for Hard Knocks. McDermott does not like stories like this. And so I think this is set up for, a potential good story for him to maybe milk out a couple million here to avoid a story like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thanks for that point. Could James, would Hard Knocks be considered leverage for Cook? You don't want me taking over your infomercial by not being in camp. That could be a good point. Le'Veon Bell, by the way, I had trouble calling this up. I don't know how much of this money he got. He held out, I got to find the year. The contract he got from the Jets after his long holdout with Pittsburgh ended. 4 years, $52.5. Guaranteed $27 million. How's that? Would James Cook not take that deal right now? This is what Bell, after holding out forever, got from the Jets. I guess you could say, well, it's the Jets, but it's also a lot of money, and it's also 6 years ago. So maybe that's a benchmark worth thinking about. All right, next up is Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mike, you made some really good points here in regarding your decision, but the one thing factor that we're not talking about much is James Cook's agent is the same as his brother Dalvin's was when he was with the Vikings. Dalvin did the same thing to the Vikings management, holding their feet over the fire, trying to get the same type of big blistered money that whether he had a great 2 years prior or not, he held him over the coal. Then he held out. He didn't sign, I think, until the day before camp or the day before the season started. And then he got hurt. And he was worthless to the Vikings after that. I truly see the same thing happening here, if not just because they use the same agent. It's all about greed. And Cook has never done anything other than just take it to the playoffs. If he wants money like Henry or Barkley, he's got to take us to the big game. And that's the only way that he's going to get the figures that he wants. Otherwise, he's going to have to wake up and realize that his demands are going to have to change. And if he's not with Buffalo, I have full confidence in the coaching staff that they'll get someone to replace him. Thanks.
Thank you. There's another angle I hadn't thought about. I don't think I'm signing for it. Like that my running back on this team especially has got to win. I guess really that should be considered, but to me that's almost like what? Like Cook in the AFC Championship made the play of that game. The play he made to score that touchdown, he had 2 in the game, was insanely good. I mean, I have never been his biggest fan because, like many, I think his production is largely a function of other people, like the system and the line and Allen. But, he's fine, like I always say. Never been his biggest fan, but that was a great play. And that could have been what the caller is asking for. Get them to the top, but they give up 30 points every time they play them, so good luck. I mean, Allen hasn't been able to do that either. And you're not saying don't pay Josh Allen. All right. Thanks, Mark. Alex is next. Hi, Alex.
Hi there, Schopp. I just wanted to weigh in on the conversation going on. And to start, I just wanted to ask a question. Do you feel that you would value James Cook over Dawson Knox?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess.
The only reason that I pose that question is I believe that James Cook is asking around the realm of $10 to $15 million. I'm pretty sure that we're paying Dawson Knox this year close to $11 million, and I wonder, is that a reasonable value? And I feel like that hasn't really been discovered or discussed much in previous callers along this topic, and I wonder if there's some way to sort of cut some money there. And as a two tight end, like how much value are you really bringing to the team in that sense? But just one of the ideas that I wanted to focus on in this sort of conversation. But I'll hang up, and I appreciate your thoughts.
Okay, thanks. That is always trouble. You have 53 guys here, and comparing, it's not linear. Comparing player value to somebody up here or somebody down here is just, that's always going to be trouble. I bought a pizza oven last year for what are those, $600? I can't justify whether I'm going to buy something else based on whether it's worth more to me than a pizza oven we never use. It's just, that's trouble. I can't buy anything. Well, no, actually, if I do it that way, I'll buy everything. I'll buy everything because maybe almost literally anything in the store is worth more to me than the pizza oven we never use that costs $600. Maybe that'll change and we'll start to use it. But, I mean, we used it for you get it, it's new, use it for a few days, and then I don't know. Can't you just buy pizza? So the Knox contract is not good. And I don't want to... Why you don't hear me talking about it, Alex, is because it doesn't really get me anywhere. Almost everything with the Bills contractually is going to look better than that contract. They did that. It was weird, if not terrible, to me at the time. I wouldn't want to say terrible because people like Dawson Knox, and, I think also within the team that's the case. But before they signed him, I'm like, don't do it. And then they do, and it was rich, and it never sat well with me. But that's over, and I'm not going to base Cook off of Knox because what do I do then? I'm paying Elijah Moore. Potentially more money than I'm paying everybody more than Knox, and I can't have that. We'll see about this pizza oven. I like the idea of it. But again, many things. I like the idea of many things. It was an impulse. It was a gift. But I thought, I like to cook. Let's go. It's just, it gets super hot, and I didn't use it enough. Plus, I was on my Awaken 180, and, pizza isn't the best choice. It was around then. So combination of those two factors, how often do I want to be eating pizza? But I have to use it enough to justify the expense, and then you're buying all the ingredients and figuring out how to hit that balance because it's 700 degrees in there or something. Never got there. Is Dawson Knox the Bills' pizza oven? I don't know. You could certainly love a pizza oven and use it all the time, and it's a great deal because you're not buying pizza out all the time this way. I would like to think, right? I mean, you can't do that. Just make it. Like it is true of most things. Just make it. It's a better deal. Maybe even would taste better. I don't know. That's saying a lot. 803-0550. Enough about the pizza oven. Enjoyed these calls. Some different angles and perspectives on what happens here or could happen with James Cook. What would you do if you were the player in this situation? Would you show up? Hey, no biggie. I wanted to get paid. Didn't. I'm here. Let's go. Go Bills. Or I think he looks weak if he does that. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off this week. Look forward to hearing from you next. Lines are open. This is WGR.
We'll get to that here in just a moment, but rookies are beginning to report to NFL training camps. Chargers did so over the weekend, though second-round pick Trey Harris did not report. He is one of 30 second-round picks who have not signed their rookie deals, as it appears stems from second-round rookies wanting fully guaranteed contracts. Along with that, for the Chargers, they have placed wide receiver Mike Williams on the PUP list, though a player can come off the PUP list at any time during training camp. That does not mean he's going to miss definitively the first 4 games. Bills rookies will report tomorrow, and their second-round pick, TJ Sanders, is among those second-round rookies who has not yet signed. Now to the big contract from today. Jets and wide receiver Garrett Wilson, 4-year, $130 million extension, $90 million is guaranteed. In the MLB, they are off this week. Games will be getting going on Fridays. It is All-Star Week down in Atlanta. The All-Star Game is going to be tomorrow, while tonight is the Home Run Derby. That is scheduled to get going just after 8 o'clock. And the Bills and Sabres Foundations will be hosting the 5th annual Give 716 Day, raising as much money for local charities as possible, beginning at 7:16 p.m. tomorrow evening and running until midnight Wednesday, July 16th. Over 550 charities are participating. All fans are encouraged to make it a donation of any amount to their favorite charity or charities. Go to give716.org between 7:16 p.m. Tuesday, July 15th, and midnight on Wednesday, July 16th. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
So I think you got to lock a player like that up. You can't let him lead a building. He's still fresh. And I think keeping him and Josh Allen together, I think that's the future of the offense. You know, you drafted Keon. You know, you got all the puzzles put together right there. And I think he's just still scratching the surface. He's still a young back. And as you look at his numbers, they only on the rise. They steady going up. So for me, when you look at a young player and you get a young talent like that, I think you got no choice but to lock him up for the next few years and give him that comfort of you're here, you're Bill. You know, let's go keep winning.
That is Dalvin Cook on his brother James. I mean, I can respect his brother having a very bullish opinion of him. It's not like we all don't either. And so I can respect a lot of that. Numbers going up, though, is what? It's one stat that went way up. Touchdowns. It went from 2 to 16. 8x. That's pretty good. Nothing else. Do you know that? 2023 to 24, Cook, fewer carries, fewer yards, a little bit uptick in yards per carry, so that went up a little bit, not meaningfully, I would say. Down in catches, down in receiving yards, down in receiving touchdowns. It's almost all the same thing. His fumbles went down, which is good. You don't want all the numbers to go up. Fumbles went down, but that's going to bounce from year to year. Usually does. I don't know. There's so many ways to look at this and things to say about Cook. What do you even do with the simple point about his snap share? The snap share is like a microcosm of the whole conversation with him. Because it's either, well, he scored 16 touchdowns and ran for 1,000 yards on, I think it was 44% of the snaps. Think of what will happen if he plays 50 or 60% of the snaps. Sky's the limit. It's either that, which I don't think we're going to get there. I mean, we could. It's either that angle, that perspective, or it's, man, the guy doesn't even play half the snaps and I'm supposed to do what here? $15 million? How does that make any sense? He has been a part-time player. He's a starter, and he's been very productive. He has been a part-time player. I don't think that that's overstating it. I wouldn't always want to put it that way. But he's not a running back who just far less often comes off the field. And I think, I don't draft very much James Cook, and this is the biggest reason why. It's not that I'm scared of him sitting out games. It's that, you know, in fantasy, you want catches. 32 catches in a full season last year. He missed one game. That's 2 a game. That's not going to get me very far. I mean, it's not the worst, but it's not meaningful. 2 catches a game, 2 touchdowns during the course of a season. That was his production as a receiver last year. And it's pretty likely, I don't know why I would feel differently here, that Ty Johnson will be on the field again for the Bills this year on 3rd down. So for me, Cook as a fantasy asset is just okay because I don't think I'm getting receiving chops here. If the guy's not going to play on 3rd because Johnson is better in that role and whatever else, more reliable, just better, which I think is how the Bills see it, then I'm already capped here for Cook. Then, when we're talking about money, which we've been doing about this player, what about it? Like, he was called a sub back when he got here by Brandon Beane, and it's still he starts, and he had a huge season with touchdowns, but it's still a little bit true. What would you do if you were Cook? 803-0550 if you want to join me. I saw an interesting tweet. There's an account called, it's shortened because it has to be to fit, Unnecessary Sports Research. Oh, baby. If you're trying to, and you're not, if you're trying to design a Twitter account to attract me, that's what you could call it. Unnecessary Sports Research. That is right down my alley. And the tweet is, if there's a point in the year where you decide to watch things other than sports on TV, this week would be the week to do it. Yeah. We've got the Home Run Derby tonight. Summer League with the NBA. Are you into that? I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't say that I don't like the NBA, but I'm not like avid or anything close to that. I don't watch very many games. I follow it just casually. So saying that, I think the Summer League might be a really cool thing. The way Trista Crick talks about it, she's out there I think, anyway, she was the other day, in Vegas, and the packed houses, the rookies right away. Could hockey ever? Is there any reason why hockey couldn't do that? Draft picks come into the league, and, wherever it would be, would it draw? If you had like the Sabres prospect team in September, do all the teams play at the Summer League?
Yep, they all have Summer League teams.
Wow. Do they keep standings?
I think they have like a tournament bracket they end up doing, but it's preseason stuff. I wonder if with college hockey maybe growing now that NIL's a thing, that could maybe push it to being a bigger thing if you want the NHL to do it, because that's a big part of the Summer League is you get these college kids, you get the number 1 overall picks, they all go to these teams. Mm-hmm. Like I remember, I'm not a big Summer League guy. I was so excited to watch Lonzo Ball's first game with the Lakers, his Summer League game, because there was just all that build up for him.
Yeah.
Now it's Cooper Flag, and he plays one game, and they're like, all right, we're done. He put up 30, we're done.
Yeah, like that was really hyped. Those guys are stars, I mean, how many hockey players, even for hockey, come out of the draft and are stars? Like it's 1 or 2, basically. But the NBA, it's almost all of them. And if you're into college basketball, you kind of know who everybody is. I mean, some are from Europe and whatnot, but still, like you kind of know who everybody is. And hockey's different like that. Plus, you need to put a whole team together, right? Well, that's true of both. Might be a little trickier for hockey, but, maybe not. That's probably not a good point. I'm not pining for it. I'm just impressed. I'm impressed when a sports league can make something like that, where they're not just living off of decades or longer of, history and a built-in fan base that's just so loyal to it. There's not even really any thinking involved. There's not. I hate this, but I'll still watch it. That's a little bit the Sabres these days, Like I do not enjoy this at all. It makes me mad and sad. I'm there though. I'm watching 80 games. Now it's 84, by the way. It's going to be 84. But from this tweet, baseball All-Star break, of course NFL, NBA, NHL, WNBA has 2 games tonight on League Pass. Premier League isn't up yet. That's August. Golf is this week. Golf is every week, but this is the final major. Brian Koziel will be on, we'll do it the usual way. Probably Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And with this tournament, which is in Northern Ireland, I think, wherever it is in the UK or Great Britain, it's done by like when we start the show in the afternoon. It's kind of over for the day. The coverage on Thursday of the Open Championship starts at 1:30 in the morning. Oh, let's go. Is that what I was about to say there? I'm not actually going to be watching that. There's a problem if I'm watching that. 1:30 in the morning. Summer League tonight, Home Run Derby's cool. WNBA. Tuesday, tomorrow, CONMEBOL Copa America Femenina. Okay, that's going to be women. I'm pretty sure Femenina is going to be women. It's what I'm reading. It doesn't say women, but I'm guessing that means women. Uruguay versus Argentina. That's a good rivalry. I could see myself watching that in here tomorrow, 4:55 p.m., unlike the golf. John Strong, too. He's the best. Yesterday, I was on the road all day and listened to a bunch of baseball broadcasts. And I don't know, this isn't really fair, too broad a brush, but everybody sounds the same. I was really missing John Sterling yesterday. Everybody sounds the same. The one that didn't was the Royals, because I think their announcer has been there for like 50 years or something like that. The Royals guy stood out. But, man, every other game I turned on, the announcer could have been the same person. Actually, maybe it was. Maybe now nobody's at the games. It's just the same AI voice who's up. Here's the pitch. I mean, maybe that's what. Maybe, probably not. Still, I was sensing a bit like there was a nostalgia piece there that I was missing yesterday, because I think that used to be different, where the broadcasts had Marty Brennaman. I listened to the Reds. It was somebody I didn't know, and it sounded like every other guy. Then I turned on the Padres. Used to be Jerry Coleman. It doesn't have to be these guys who are old-timers or dead. Just, does it always have to be somebody that seems like they're just like right out of broadcasting school with all the baseball jargon, you know? If you know of somebody that I'm not thinking about for this point, I didn't listen to every game, let me know, because I'll look for them. 803-0550 for your calls. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off this week. Thanks for being with me today. This is WGR. Up 4 pages in this notebook of mine, my trusty notebook, on
mock schedules
on fake bill schedules. Whose idea was that? I mean, literally 4 pages are just used up by the bill schedule. No, this other one I didn't even really get anywhere because I made a mistake right away with having 3 home games together. But they do have that. A lot of teams, I haven't mentioned this with you yet, but the 3-game road trip / homestand, whichever, there's plenty of that on the NFL schedule. Mm-hmm. Anyway, can I blame you for this? I've got 4 pages taken up. It's getting late here for this notebook.
Well,
I really could use the space.
Can you just tear those pages out? I mean,
I would never.
That's not going to replace the pages. You would never.
No reason to. It doesn't erase them, like you said, right?
Right, but they're out of there. Like, if it's annoying you that they're there,
it's annoying me.
You have no use for them. You're I wouldn't think ever really going to need to look at a mock bill schedule.
No, but there could be something useful on the other side.
Oh, I see. I didn't know.
I'm on the backs now.
I thought maybe you were. I apologize. I didn't understand the gravity of the situation. I thought.
I'm not sure you still do.
I thought you had 2 pages with 4 schedules, front, back, front, back.
No.
Tear those out. They're gone.
What I do is go all the way to the back using the fronts, and then come all the way back the other way using the backs, like a normal person would do.
This is the most insane assertion you've ever made on the show.
What are you talking about?
Ever.
You would use the back of a page?
Front, back, like you're reading a book. Yeah, like a normal person. Really? Yeah, front, back. That's how you turn pages. What are you doing? Front, all the way. Wow. I don't really know what to say.
Well, it's going to come out the same.
Sure.
Oh, look, here's a schedule. The video. 1,000 people are watching it at one time. 8 people have clicked the like button. And that's offensive. In that community, no. Just please go out of your way, if you must, and just click on the thumbs up. Do we have the thumbs up? We do. Yeah, all right. Please click the like button.
Yeah.
It helps to grow. I believe it helps to grow the program.
Does it tell
the algorithms like it when you get more likes?
Does it reveal the identity of the person clicking the like?
Not on YouTube.
Okay, I'm going to click it then.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with.
Welcome back, and thanks for listening today. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off all week. He will be calling in on Wednesday for his golf picks, however, whatever time we decide to do that. It's his turn. Open Championship. I'm sure he's focused on that on his vacation. It probably is. Gary is next. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Fine, thanks.
I listen to you guys all the time. I hardly ever call in, but I'm out in the field today, and I hear you call James Cook weak if he plays through the season without a contract. And
With a
seeing
contract.
that you're the,
Yeah.
you're the gambling guy, right? I mean, you know your odds. What do you think that he might just gamble that the Bills go to a Super Bowl? What do you think he's going to get in free agency next year?
That's a good question.
Or is he worried is he that worried about injury? Because when his brother got the big contract, he just fell off.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to look at it, but look back at Fitzmagic. He got the big contract, he fell off. I don't know.
Well,
what do you think the odds are that if he plays through the season, I mean, don't you think he'd get a huge contract even if we don't make it to the Super Bowl?
I don't. Really?
He's going to be in free agency.
Yeah. I don't see him. I don't have to be right. Thanks, Gary. I like where you're coming from here. I have never thought that he would command that. And he might be thinking, I don't know if team results have to matter at all in this, but I honestly wonder if he puts down the very same season, what that's worth next year. He's a year older, and the touchdown thing is pretty fluky. It'll seem less fluky if he backs it up with another one, but that completely came out of nowhere, and most of his stats weren't any different. So I think what he would be next offseason as a free agent is one of the best available running backs. I doubt he would be clearly the best. I don't know who else might be in the conversation, but what is he? He's a good player who really doesn't play on third down. I mean, maybe that doesn't mean he can't, but the Bills brought in a guy who was like almost out of the league and use him on third down over this guy. For those of you not watching the show, I just shrugged my shoulders. There, I'll do it again for anybody who missed it. I don't know. I think it's an interesting hypothetical because the odds are that he will not have 16 touchdowns in 2025 or even 10. I don't know what's the line going to be, speaking of odds. I think the Bills will do something for him before we get to week 1, maybe before we get to next week, because it just doesn't seem like them to risk whatever this is to risk. Acrimony. I mean, there's going to be money for him. They're not going to set a record signing him. The only way, in my mind, this doesn't happen is if Cook is defiant. And I wouldn't predict that. Bulldog is predicting, he's been saying that he doesn't think the Bills will do anything, and they'll just expect him to walk in the door. And when I say weak, I only meant, I don't think it's weak to show up for work. I meant in the sense that he promoted how he was looking for a big deal, and if he shows up for minicamp and then shows up for training camp and plays on his deal, what was the point? I mean, it seems like you would only do that if you were serious, and that's what I mean by weak. Thanks again, Gary. I like your call. Here's Owen next. Hi, Owen.
Hey, Mike. I was thinking a lot about this, and the way he put his position out there publicly, there's no way to get back from that. It's out there, right? Yep. So I think you got to report to camp, and really the way the media cycles through, you answer a couple of questions. We're working on a contract. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We never really will anyway.
Yep.
I agree with you. I think they'll get something done, but to pass up the opportunity to play for a contender over, I guess you can call it life-changing money, I just really think at this point you just got to stick through it and stick to your story and play with what you got.
If you're Cook, meaning like you think he should, or if you were he, you'd walk in, you'd play.
I definitely would, just because of where the Bills are as a franchise in the NFL. I mean, you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. That's going to be lifelong recognition, and I think that leads to bigger legacy endorsements or what have you. So I think it makes more sense really to play out the contract you sign, see where things take you, but also just, feed the media what you need to as far as saying, hey, we're working on something, and if something happens, great, but I want to be here, and, I got a job to do.
Very good. Thanks, Owen. Another good call. I want to think about the point about the team winning and how that pertains to this. Because my first reaction is, oh, come on. Like, how important is that? But I think that might sound ridiculous to say that. To me, somewhat, including the quality of the team in the equation, is naive. I think it can be naive. But I would never want to say that it's irrelevant. So I'm in between here. I doubt for most guys it would be irrelevant how good the Bills are and what that means. But I think mostly we might care about that or think about that more than the players would when they're talking about money. I don't know. I'm really asking if you know. Is there a correlation between top teams and the lack of like holdouts, I guess that could be double counting. If guys on the Chiefs or the Bills don't hold out because part of their calculus is we have a chance to win, then that would correlate. But it's also going to be, if it's an important player, it's also going to be a reason toward why you're winning because they're on the field, right? I mean, that could be double counted, but I wonder if that's true. Like, who's the worst? Do the Browns have holdout problems all the time? The Bengals have stuff, but they're not bad. I don't know. It's an individual choice. I want to play on a contract that I don't love because we can win. It seems a little naive to me. What do you think? Mike Schopp here at 803-0550. This is WGR. Last worth more to me than a pizza oven we never use. Maybe almost literally anything in the store is worth more to me than the pizza oven, more than Knox, and I can't have that. We'll see about this pizza oven. I like the idea. Is Dawson Knox the Bills' pizza oven? I don't know. You could search the pizza oven. Enjoy these.
Payday in the AFC East. Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson reached an agreement with the Jets on a 4-year, $130 million contract extension, and $90 million of that is guaranteed. We've also got rookies reporting to training camp starting from over the weekend and continuing into this week. Chargers being the team to take place over the weekend. They will be part of the Hall of Fame game, though not reporting with them. Second-round rookie wide receiver Trey Harris. Harris is one of the 30 second-round picks this year that have not yet signed their rookie deals, and this does appear to stem from those rookies wanting fully guaranteed contracts for their rookie seasons. Bills' second-round pick TJ Sanders also among that group. The Bills rookies will be reporting tomorrow. Tonight, though, in sports, it is the beginning of MLB All-Star Week. It is down in Atlanta. The All-Star Game is tomorrow. Tonight, though, is the Home Run Derby. That is scheduled to get going just after 8 o'clock. And then the Bills and Sabres Foundations will be hosting the 5th annual Give 716 Day, raising as much money for local charities as possible, beginning at 7:16 p.m. tomorrow evening. That is Tuesday, July 15th, and running to 11:59 p.m. Wednesday, July 16th. Over 550 charities are participating. All fans are encouraged to make a donation of any amount to their favorite charity or charities and go to give716.org to make that happen between 7:16 p.m. Tuesday, July 15th and 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, July 16th. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I have a leg injury and a foot injury right now.
A leg and a foot. Are they on the same
side of my body?
Side of your body?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Left. What happened to you?
I got stung by a bee, and then I think I got stung by another bee.
Oh, come on.
I think I did.
Well, when did this happen?
Last night.
Last night?
Last night. Who knew?
It's Mike Schopp.
Huh. Just never thought about getting stung by a bee at night.
I don't know.
But there would still be bees at night.
I guess.
That just sounds like the flat Earth thing. The bees just don't disappear when it gets dark.
Okay, but I've never seen one at night.
Well, it's dark.
And the Bulldog.
Maybe they would not be out at night, but you disturbed it, so it came out and said, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, they weren't expecting me.
I'm in here trying to watch the Vietnam War on PBS, and you're what are you doing sitting down in the chair? This is my time.
You are not supposed to. Right. This is our time.
Right.
That's what the bee said.
Right. So
on behalf of the other bees.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Well, I don't even need to ask, as if bee talk wasn't riveting enough. At some point, like middle of last week, I have a basement. We have a bar in our basement. All the podcasting I do is from my basement. ADP chasing, free plug, tomorrow morning, 10, all times Eastern. So I'll be sitting at my bar in my basement for that. And maybe it was then. No, I wasn't on last week. Like, say Wednesday, it doesn't matter. Middle of last week, there was a fly bothering me in my spot there. And I'm like, all right, well, this is annoying, but it's a fly. And then I left. I left the scene without doing anything about the fly. And then on Friday, went to Maryland for the weekend for my son's lacrosse. And I went downstairs this morning, and there was a fly. And I think there was another time in between. Like 3 or 4 times I went to my basement, and I noticed, heard, maybe saw once, like one fly. And I thought maybe either it would be more or none, having this much time pass. But no, each time recently, like 3 or 4 times in a row, going into my basement, one fly has been perceptible. So now you know that. 803-0550 to call in. We've talked about James Cook a lot today. I know, again. But there's really no news at all on him. And my voice there sounded like maybe that's surprising. I guess I'd say it's a little surprising. So it's been interesting today with callers talking about what they would do if they were Cook. I like that. I think I wouldn't have, in the first place, made it known what I was looking for in terms of dollars. Like he went out there with that. And so not being someone who would have done that, and the type of person I am, usually I'll just take the deal and not want to listen to my voice, right? Not want to disappoint. I'm not really proud of it. I mean, there are times probably when I should have been more stuck up for myself more in these kinds of things. But, Cook is somebody who announced what he wanted, and I don't think you can just sort of ignore that, or not ignore, dump that if you're Cook and just say, well, whoops, didn't happen, I'm here, let's go. That, I think, looks funny, because then why? Like, it's a poker hand. Why say it if you're not going to mean it? Why bother? What, are the Bills going to see your Twitter and just pay you? Whoops. So that's why, that logic is why I keep coming back to this story. Because even though he was at that minicamp thing to not get fined, and even though we don't have any real speculation about whether he's going to skip training camp or whatever he's going to do, that's next week, I still think maybe there is something. Because you don't just be like, I want $15 million a year or however I should put that exactly, and then just play for 5. I just think, like, who takes you seriously when you do that? 803-0550 if you have a thought on that. We had Warren Sharp on earlier, and I'm looking at his football preview, which is coming out. I'll say again what he said, which is, if you want it, I don't get this. Like, he did this the last time he was on with us. Sharp Football, no. Well, there's that too, sharpfootball.com, but there's also sharp.football. That's the one he said. And if you use the promo code BILLS, you can have it for $1. I think he said it's $30, but you can have it for $1 if you use promo code BILLS. Sharp.football. It's like almost 600 pages. So, for $1. Come on. I'm trying to, it's really, parts of it are really statsy. And I'm trying to make sense of what might be interesting here in some of the Bills stuff. Offensive efficiency and tendency research is interesting, maybe, in one way. So everything is by rank. The Bills were, to give you an example, second overall in the NFL last year in first half offensive efficiency. There's success rate. There's explosive plays. All kinds of stuff like this. And then there's, if you're following along at home, this is page 142 of the Sharp Football Preview, and we are looking at number 26 in the left-hand column. Percentage of runs into 8-man plus boxes. So what percentage of the Bills' running plays were into 8-man boxes? You with me on that? Do I have to describe that? 8 men in the box. 32nd. So they ran the fewest percentage or the lowest percentage in the league of their runs were into 8-man boxes. That seems smart. I don't want to run into those 8-man boxes. Would you? I wouldn't. That sounds terrible. So good. 32nd in the league. Now we'll move to number 28. Oh, before we do that, actually, 27, because we should go in order. Success on runs into 8-man boxes. 6th. So they rarely did it, but when they did it, they did pretty well at it. They could have had Alec Anderson on the field for some of these plays. They're going to be in different formations. This is just against 8-man boxes. 32nd in the league in attempts by percentage. 6th in success. Percentage of runs into 7-man boxes. Now we have removed one of the men from the box. First. Highest percentage of rushes of any team into 7-man boxes. Simple game, It's kind of a simple game. Doesn't this work for you? All right, guys, here's what we're going to do. 7 men in the box, run it. 8, pass. How much easier could you make it for Allen? I know there's a lot more, but simply count the men in the box. 7, James Cook, or you take off. 8, nope. I think that's pretty cool. I wonder what that looks like around the league. And by the way, their success, since I did the other one, on 7-man boxes runs 5th. Looks like they were pretty successful running the ball in general. 6th as well into 6-man boxes. 22nd in attempts, so they're kind of in the middle. They didn't want to. What do we got there? What that might be? 6-man boxes. So what? I've got 5 DBs or even 6 DBs on the field. And that's probably because, it's 3rd and long, right? So I'm not going to run. It's still a relative thing, percentage, but I'm not going to run on those plays too often. I probably need a big gain, at least sometimes, depending on the team. So, yeah, pretty simple game. 8 men in the box, I'm throwing it. 7, I'm running. 6, well, I guess I could do either. Yeah, this is an example of the one of many examples of the Sharp football preview. And, it's not just that granular data. It's, also a lot of writing. And we'll play this back, but Warren's he didn't mince words about it. They have a McDermott problem. And these playoff losses to Kansas City are too much. They're giving up way more points to the Chiefs than the Chiefs are scoring against their other opponents. And, you make a point, Warren Sharp. So that's coming up. 803-0550 for your calls. Home Run Derby is tonight. Are you familiar with Cam Raleigh, Seattle Mariners catcher? I asked the question because you may not be. I'm not talking about Aaron Judge. You are probably familiar with Aaron Judge. You may not be familiar with Cal Raleigh. Any real baseball fan would be, because he has 38 home runs this year already. It's the second most going into an All-Star break ever. Bonds had 39 one year. And I don't know, have you seen Cal Raleigh play? It's possible that I have not ever seen this guy. I've probably seen him, but it's not like I'm making a point to see Cal Raleigh. He's a switch hitter. He's a catcher. He's the big dumper, Cal Raleigh. There's a nickname. He is a switch-hitting catcher for the Mariners that has 38 home runs at the break. And he's in the Home Run Derby tonight. So you can get to know him then, which I recommend. Home Run Derby's fine. It's a little maybe a lot over the top, but it's something. It's the night before the All-Star game. This is what we have. You're going to like it. Don't complain. But that's what we have, the Home Run Derby. I watched the Yankees one day last week. It might have been Thursday. I wasn't feeling well. One day last week, I watched Wednesday or Thursday probably. I watched the Yankees, and the pitcher was named Cam Schlittler. They have a young pitcher they called up. It was his first start, I believe. That is a tough name. Cam Schlittler, I believe, was the name of this Yankee pitcher. So I caught that. Toronto is still in first, right? 2 games? What is the Jays' lead at this point? At least they're up. They're up at least by one.
They are 2 games up.
2 games up. All right. Cam Schlittler, everybody. So home run derby tonight, all-star game tomorrow. I'm like most baseball fans around my age or older probably, which like fond memories of the all-star games growing up. Dave Parker died a week or 2 ago, and so it was a great essay at Defector about Dave Parker, who was just the coolest. And he made famous plays, 2 throws in the 1979 All-Star Game in Seattle that just are like, if you saw it, baseball fans back then, even younger, would know about them. And I watched the highlight. I read the essay at Defector about Parker, who I just liked even more from this writing. It was great. He was on the show once. I mean, he was older, and it sounded like he wasn't, top of his game, but happens, right? So loved this essay about him, and the throw home from that All-Star game, the YouTube highlight was linked, and, it's 2 minutes or something like that, and I watched it. It's Joe Garagiola and Tony Kubek are the announcers. Parker, on the fly, from deep right, throws out the runner, Brian Downing, at the plate. And Garagiola, who these 2 guys were great. They were great together. And so I always liked him. He was a catcher. And he immediately, you should watch it, he immediately goes crazy about the play the catcher makes on this throw by Parker. This is the late Gary Carter. The late, great Gary Carter is the catcher. And so it is good. He has to, it's not like right to him so he can just sort of be in his normal position behind the plate and the ball's perfect. He has to go up the line a couple of feet, a few feet maybe to catch it, and then twist back to tag the runner while blocking the plate, which you could do then. Baseball, for real players back then, blocking the plate and everything. So Garagiola is just amazed immediately by the play Carter makes, which is cool. And so, but I wasn't expecting it. You're watching this highlight of one of the most famous throws in baseball history. It might be number 1. What is the most famous throw in baseball history? What would it be? It would have to be some, important play, third base or home. It's not going to be the second. What's the most famous throw? Like, this might be it. So that's what you're watching in the middle of this essay about the late Dave Parker. And the announcer just can't stop talking about the play the catcher makes. And so finally he stops. He does eventually stop. And then Kubek chimes in, what a throw. I was getting worried that maybe this incredible, famous moment in All-Star Game history, in baseball history, came with, because this happens sometimes, the broadcasters just not noticing it, not recognizing it. You need that for the highlight. You need that for the memory. You need the announcers to know right away, and also, in my opinion, preferably not scream at you about how great it was. They don't need to be screaming at you. They have microphones, but a lot of them do that. Here, Garagiola loves the play Carter makes, fair enough, but doesn't get to the throw. Kubek mentions the throw. On the fly from right, he's amazed by it. We all are. And then Garagiola goes back to when it's his turn to talk next, he goes back to Gary Carter. Fine. It is good. I can certainly appreciate a former catcher appreciating the play that was made there. But it's super famous. And sometimes I'll think of Parker and that game, and the play in my mind is a throw to third that he makes. And I think I've probably misspoken about this before because I clicked on it and I'm kind of thinking this is going to be a play at third. But no, it wasn't. So I've probably misspoken about that before. Before we get to a break here, want to mention that Garrett Wilson contract. Just quickly, it's been in the updates. The Jets signed Garrett Wilson. Is it $90 million guaranteed? Maybe is that the number? And this contract makes him the NFL's 5th highest paid wide receiver. He is great. He's another one of these guys that I get jealous about when thinking about the Bills and their wide receivers. Not like they need Garrett Wilson necessarily. They've been a much better team than the Jets. But, man, I would love it if somehow the Bills had somebody like this. I guess they really don't want to have somebody like this, right? Like they've worked around it, if that's not unfair to say. Fantasy, Garrett Wilson is, because it's kind of time, right, out there? Not just for the sickos like me, it's kind of time. Fantasy football is coming. He is a late second-round pick. You could have, who's your choice? Garrett Wilson, Rashee Rice, T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. There's your, late second to early third wide receivers. You can have your choice. You can't have more than one. But I am not underweight on Wilson, even though he's had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons for the Jets. I mean, you got to give him some respect for that. Talking about some of that data from Warren Sharp's excellent football preview. As I mentioned, he was on the show earlier today. We'll have that for you next. Evan Silva tomorrow, by the way. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.